Check, 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 check. Yo. Check, 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 check. Check, check. You're
It's on there now.
Yeah, it's on there now. CHAATAZA. I can hear it now. Is this the same one? It's a different one, right?
Good on Kai. Run a little test, ran into a little bit of technical difficulties. Y'all already know though. We got a little bit of a show for y'all tonight. In the meantime, enjoy some music.
Wait, I don't see it.
You dig?
Warning! Warning! Cross the line. This program is intended for a mature audience. Mature audience.
Cross the fucking line!
Viewer discretion is advised.
Or get the fuck out. Right!
This is Cross the Line Radio with Captain TAZARYACH.
In the New Testament, they call it the Law of Moses.
Well, it is the law of Moses. Who delivered it? Moses delivered it.
And Captain CHAATAZA.
Brother, I'm gonna read the scripture for you just to show you that you don't understand how to.
Warning! Warning! Cross the line. This program is intended for a mature audience. Mature audience.
Cross the fucking line!
Viewer discretion is advised.
Or get the fuck out. Right!
One West. Yeah. I'ma do it when you afraid to do it. I'ma say what you ain't gonna say. I'ma tell you what you need to hear. This life, they got us fucked up, man. Real fucked up. Look. Feel me one time. Look. Yo. I know struggle, I know pain. I know my people strung off of the dope to cope with the long days. I know this place called America. I know this place where they deal with us like homeland terrorists. I know this place got us fucked up. I know this place got us positioned so we never try to stand up. I know this place wanna see me sleep. And when it come to my people, they love to see a black man weep. But it's survival of the fittest. And when it comes to the law, best believe we gon' get it. Rise, Israel, rise. Fuck the devil for his lies. Fuck the devil for his lies. Rise, Israel, rise. Fuck the devil for his lies. Fuck the devil for his lives. Rise, Israel, rise. Rise, Israel, rise. Yeah, look, this ain't a place you wanna be, where you can surrender from a flea and still be dead in the streets. This white man, he play for keeps. And when it comes to his love, you should never wanna see. I want war, fuck peace. I want war, fuck peace. I want them dead in the streets. I want war, fuck peace. I want them dead in the streets. I want them dead in the streets. Yeah, so prepare them troops, because my king come through, he gon' show you what it do. Death to all you other nations, you had a hand in the equation for this hell I be facing. See, man, y'all think it's a game when we bring it to you like this, man. I gotta give you the truth. When they lie to you, you love the lies cause it tastes sweet. But it's truth bitter. It hit you straight in the core, man. But you need it. One West shit. Now, I got the pleasure to introduce you to that Philly barbarian. Hey yo, Salakia cat, you had something to say? Is red.
All this pain and it's hard to cope. Your situation stay the same, so it's hard to hope. You say you tired of moving cane, now they call you broke. There's new rules to the game, you ain't hardly know. So that's why you gotta play it smarter. I'd rather die on my feet as a man than a martyr. That's just a lesson for my daughters. Just know their father gave his life just to build you a fortress, so you would always be protected. Just know you living in a world where you gon' feel neglected. I tell you while you young, just so you'll expect it. And when that fake love come, you can reject it. But this is hectic. Give me one more second. I just hope you make the same choices and never reckless. I don't want you losing your innocence prematurely. For you, I'll be judge, executioner, and the jury. And just know you worth all the diamonds and all the jewelry. Every single ruby, and never shine way that you be. That's why if they wanna hurt you, they gotta go through me. And even if I can't be by your side physically, I just want my baby girls to rise like it's misery. That's why I be working and despise every enemy, cause they wanna separate our bond and our memory. So pain. And I fight so you don't have to ever do the same. Until I rise again.
Thinking about my dog RJ. Thinking about my man Zoe. Every time I hit was good, cuz I hit my real nigga and no. Thinking about my dogs. Man, I miss my niggas. I remember we was kids. Now everybody killers. Looking out for me. Just as long as I'm living, I'ma keep shit G. Remember RJ died, even my dad cried. He had so much love and I don't know why. Why the good die young and change the whole hood life. Went from NFL dreams to don't die tonight. Got too many homies locked up or popped up. Got me like fuck a gang, we need laws and some doctors. Thinking about my man Zoe. Every time I hit was good, cut. Hit my real nigga and no. Thinking about my dog. Oh, man, I miss my niggas. I remember we was kids. Now everybody killers. My nigga Zoe taught me, hold up. Don't trust these niggas, they'll switch up. Then we went and did a hold up. And my nigga never switched up. Shit was real from the field to the creek, my nigga. And I was a Southside G, my nigga. Used to skip school with a young crip. I'm in a hottie with a pistol on some dumb shit. That young shit. That y'all look down on me. And I hope as a G you like what you see. Cause I can't even lie, shit been real in these streets. Felt like D-Wade, fuck the ball, I stay with the heat.
You ain't too, you crazy for this one. Who am I to be compared with? I marvel the rap game on some rare shit. And I ain't fucking with these rappers on some real shit. Tryna stack old chips on some stale shit. Uprise against the priest that he fell quick. Even running in the dark like the Blair Witch. I'm true to this shit and I can't. Even shaking like he trying to get that paint, bitch. I'm going hard in the paint, bitch. Say he a god, but he ain't shit. He just impersonating. Full of that dope, you're hurting nature. Puffing that smoke, he ain't a gangster. Now it's time to expose you. Time to show you how a real soldier roll through. Death coming when it comes, let it hold you. Raised by mighty men, this how they mold you. Heart thumping like Pro Tools. I ain't none but the truth, boy, I told you. Style cold, it'll kill you. Cold blue, fresh like Chucky in the truth. What's the dope moves, nigga? Run against the team, take his lane like the old bitch from Soul Food. I'm just trying to run my pennies up. Don't buck, cause the semi tough. Claim it tough, but that ain't enough. Listen, to be quite clear, bitch, I'm smooth like a light bill. These niggas dead, I breathe life pill. I'm going up like the light bill. Cause I'm just trying to get a buzz like my last name Lightyear. Send a message to the masses, I'm fortified. I'm about to trade in my 9 for a 45. I'm killing this shit, gotta mortify. UBK, we up, got the other side to moralize. Them niggas nice, but I'm way more superior. He ain't one wet, he don't fit the criteria. Don't take my kindness for weakness. I'm a beast on the interior. These niggas can't be serious. Brave heart, go against the art. Don't go against the squad, you'll get picked apart. Oh, she say you know God, bitch, don't even start. Play with your honor, I'm the at the nigga don't like a swinging sword. It's wartime, ain't no need to play. This low ass nigga, you was never with us anyway. They say I'm going down for the things I say, so I went and got the Glock like you gon' roll with me today. Yeah, it ain't gonna stop, nigga. I'm telling you, boy, it ain't gonna stop. It ain't gonna stop, nigga. Nigga about to fall on this shit. These niggas weak, must be raised from a poor strain. No time for pleasure, bring more pain. Fuck that sound shit, bring more flame. Straight soldier out the gate, I don't move, that's just ordained. I'm done bullshitting, time to take him down. If he ain't taking ground, then don't come around. Soldiers in the back marching, that's how thunder sound. Tuck me in the booth, I'm just trying to run the underground. In front of the glass ceiling, they ain't saying nothing. They say 144, how you keep it coming? I told them, fear of the Lord, keep my feet from running. I kick shit like FIFA, youngin', and aim high like I'm eagle hunting.
144, keep blazing, my nigga. The devil may cry, motherfucker.
This is Cross the Line Radio with Captain TAZARYACH.
In the New Testament, they call it the law of Moses.
Well, it is the law of Moses. Who delivered it? Moses delivered it.
Moses delivered it.
And Captain CHAATAZA.
Brother, I'm gonna read a scripture for you just to show you that you don't understand how the Lord works.
Every Thursday night from 10 p.m. to midnight, addressing the issues plaguing the so-called Blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. Also, headquarters of The Body Bag.
Trying to put me in a body bag, bro.
Yeah, listen, he knew he was in the body bag.
Cross the Line Radio. And now,
If you're gonna cross the line, cross the fucking line. Otherwise, get the fuck out of here.
ISUPK.
Yeah. Y'all know how we do.
Yeah.
I usually say this on Thursday. Y'all know how we do live every Thursday night.
This ain't Thursday.
This ain't Thursday.
Sabado.
This is this is live on a Saturday night. We always call this the Saturday night special. Every once in a while, we like to give a special treat to our listening audience, to our brothers and sisters out there. I want to say big up Commander General Yohana, the leader of this nation. Big up to the generals, captains, officers, troopers, to the sisters down with serving the Most High in spirit and in truth. As always, I'm Captain TAZARYACH, along with Captain CHAATAZA. Special partner of mine came all the way down from Syracuse, Captain Azania, going to join us up here on the table tonight. We got a special treat.
Yep.
I want to introduce y'all in a second. We're going to introduce y'all to the Brooklyn. I don't want to just say Brooklyn Moors. Is it more to it than just that? Okay, no sweat. Okay, no sweat. I'm gonna call them the Brooklyn Moors, and then they're gonna introduce themselves. The mics, like I said, the two mics are there. You know what I mean? Y'all could use them. That way you want to speak into it so they can hear you. But today, you know, would definitely be, it should be a pretty good day. You know, the brothers had contacted us. We had, I think it was like maybe back in October, where we had said anybody that wants to come to the school to give us a debate, you can come up in the building. The brother sent us an email. I believe Captain CHAATAZA and the brother have been corresponding. We worked out a time where it would be amicable for both parties. And so here we are today, live January 5th, where we'll be debating the subject titles are, CHAATAZA.
Okay, so you understand? There's three things.
I don't know if we're gonna do that third one.
I believe there's three. One of them that needs to be proven is that the Circle 7 and the Quran are both a part of Abraham's faith, or I mean, what people call the Abrahamic faith. I mean, I skeeve that term. Okay. You know what I'm saying? But that Abraham followed Islam or followed the Circle 7 or whatever the case may be. That was the first topic we discussed. Okay. The second topic that we discussed was I believe the identity of the Aborigines of America. So we're talking about the basically the Indians of the Americas, North, Central, South Caribbean, so on and so forth. And then finally, that Black and Hispanics of Negro or Indian descent are Moors by nationality. So they would have to
prove that we're Moors.
Right.
Okay, not Israelites like how we believe, but prove that we're Moors, and then we'll find out where they come from.
As an identity, as a nationality.
Okay. All right, so before we get fully into it, each round, just so everybody know that's listening, each round will be 10 minutes, which I will time. You can trust me. They have their camera too, so there will be no side nettering, so to speak. So we can't edit it or nothing like that. But that's just a slight stab at the brother. But it'll be 10-minute rounds each. The brothers will go first. After they go, we'll have a 10-minute round where we'll respond. For the 2 rounds, I believe the third round, maybe back and forth, or we'll see how it goes from there. But before I do that, of course, y'all can grab the mic. I give y'all the opportunity to introduce yourselves to our listening audience for those that may not know you. But you can go ahead. You have the floor. Yeah, yeah. You gotta push it up. Make sure it's on.
You turn all the way up. Push it all the way up. All right, try talking. Okay, go ahead. Try talking now.
Peace.
Yeah, yeah. We
All
can
right,
hear
there
you
we
now.
go.
There you go.
So peace. I'll be the first to introduce myself. I'm Sheikh Amir Talib L. I'm the chairman at Moorish Science of America Incorporated, subordinate Temple 21-3. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Most High, who we refer to as Allah, and give honors to all true and divine prophets. And I'm going to pass to my brothers.
Peace. First, I want to give praise to the Most High, who refer to as Yahuwah Allah. I want to give honor to all divine prophets. I'm Grand Sheikh Yusef Bey.
Okay.
Islam, all praises due to Father God Allah. This is the Assistant Grand Sheikh, Tunde Sadat Rael, Temple 21-3. Peace and blessings.
Okay.
Just one more thing I wanted to address, just so people don't get confused, because we was part of a previous lineage. We're not associated or affiliated with the Moorish American National Republic out in Baltimore under the tutelage of their National Grand Sheikh Joel Bratton Bey. We're under Grand Sheikh, Supreme Grand Sheikh Clarence Prather L.
Okay, no stress. So I'm assuming it's like a different. So like we was asked, right? So I could potentially ask you a question from their thought process, but it wouldn't apply. That's what you're saying, right? Something like that.
Well, we just basically letting you know who we're associated with.
Okay.
Because previously we were associated with a different body.
Okay.
We're no longer associated with them.
I got you. Okay. No sweat. All right. So now, I'm just gonna ask just a couple questions, not debative questions right now. Just how we got here, so to speak. So of course, y'all saw, somebody from your organization saw our call out, so to speak, if anybody wanted to debate. So what made you guys want to reach out to us to actually do this particular debate here?
Basically, we have a lot of respect.
Turn the volume up a little bit.
We have a lot of respect for your particular group. We know that you guys are the most prominent Israelite group and probably the most prominent conscious group in the conscious community.
Butter us up already.
So
no, good. I'm messing with you.
And so we felt like we know y'all stance on Islam. We feel that the representation of the teachings of the Prophet Noble Joe Ali are not properly disseminated. So we feel that this discussion will bring further clarity and give people an understanding and a comprehension of the pure and true teachings of the Prophet Noble Joe Ali in the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Okay, so that's what made you reach out to us. Okay. All right, so without further ado, unless y'all got anything else, did y'all want to ask us anything before we start?
Just wanted to say one thing. We also discussed in terms of the topic that y'all will have to substantiate how our people are Israelites. We're going to substantiate on our portion how the nationality is Moorish. We want y'all to address and substantiate how we're Israelites.
Based on the scriptures and stuff like that is what you're asking?
Yeah. No, we just want you to clarify your position on it.
Okay.
Not that we're contesting it. We just want you to.
I'm not saying that y'all contesting it.
Just to edify the people.
I mean that was never negotiated, but I mean that's what we do for a living.
Yeah.
So
okay, maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah,
the
negotiation. That wasn't negotiated.
It wasn't me who negotiated with.
No sweat. But what I can pretty much assure you that throughout this dialogue, something will come out that will show that the Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are Israelites. Right. Something in my brain just making me think that just might come out.
Right, so just for the people, that's all.
Yeah,
but our stance is that we're not. Our stance, just so you guys are aware, is that we're not saying we're not Israelites. That's not our stance.
Right. You're just saying we're Moors.
Yes.
And Moors is Israelites.
Yes.
Okay, no sweat. So now, is there anything else y'all want to ask? Okay,
no,
so
we ready?
Okay, no sweat. So the first thing we'll get into, being that we talked about, being that you mentioned that we would have to identify ourselves as Israelites, you'll have 10 minutes from the moment you start to present the information that says we're Moors. All right. So whenever you're ready, you let me know. Let me make sure I get my stopwatch ready.
I got it.
Oh, you got it already?
Okay.
Ready. So whenever you're ready, you let us know. We'll start when you tell us. So you take your time. You let us know when you're ready, and we'll rock from there.
All right, so we're just going to begin with our holy book, the Moorish Quran, or the Holy Quran, the Moorish Science Temple of America, chapter 47, verse 9. And it states, According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the Holy Land of Canaan.
Peace. So as we see stated in this record is that there's no Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian race attached to the human family, the planet Earth, and all descendants of from Canaanites from the Holy Land of Canaan. Our position is that Canaanites and Israelites, the Israelites is a subgroup of Canaanites that emerged out of Canaan, out of amongst the Canaanites. So the term Canaan or Israel, defined Canaan was a geographical term designating for the eastern shore of the Mediterranean Sea, Lebanon, and Israel. The ancient writings often use Canaan as an ethnic term designating not the land, but the people who lived in the land. I want to say that again. It's an ethnic term, designate not the land, but the people who lived in the land. So people who inhabit the land of Canaan, whether they was Israelites or so forth, was identified as Canaanites. People who lived in the land as such. The Canaanites were never a cohesive ethnic group, since the varieties of the culture were viewed could be included under this single label. Since the Israelites lived in the land of Canaan, they were also Canaanites. Everyone who lived in the ancient Canaan were Canaanites. Gradually, Canaanites became identified as Phoenicians or Moors, Moabites, best known through the ancient writings known by the ancient writings. So the term Israel is an eponym. An eponym is an ethnic identity defined by telling the story of a kinship. Israel then is a primary or social political term affiliated among loosely related tribal groups. So what we're saying is that the children of Israel were a people that emerged out of Canaan and became Israel because they did not agree with the lifestyle that the Canaanites was living. And from that, developed out of Canaan came Israel. So we're saying that ethnically, the Canaanites and Israelites are one and the same people, just that the Israelites were the people who developed out of Canaan, could not agree with the Canaanite lifestyle that they were living and gave birth to Canaan. So Israelites wasn't someone who came into the land of Canaan, but they were an indigenous group of Canaanites that emerged out of Canaan into the inhabit the land of Israel. So again, the term the term Israel is an eponym. Is an eponym. That's the term Israel is an eponym. You want to elaborate?
So just to reiterate the Grand Sheik's point, he's saying that Israelite is not a distinct identity or a group of people who came outside and migrated into the land, but a people who have origins in the land and later adopted identity referred to as Canaanite, which we're going to show through, not through scripture, but through archaeological records and what we find in the historical record and later on in scripture. So we're going to show the basis. We're going to make the connection to that, and we'll show the connection between the Canaanite nation and who we refer to today as Negro, Black, and Colored, even here in the Americas. We're going to trace it from that particular period of the land of Canaan. We're going to go into the history of Joshua, Joshua's conquest in the land of Canaan, the surrounding tribes being expelled out of the land of Canaan, the fall of Israel in the land of Canaan, and their relationship to the modern empires, and when they become referred to which is the modern term of Moor.
So I'm gonna just add on to this, and I'm gonna let the brothers, the sheiks, add on more. So who were the Israelites? The Israelites emerged only gradually as a distinct group of Canaanites, and archaeology reveals that the people who lived in these villages were indigenous of Canaan, who only gradually developed a ethnic identity that is called the term Israel. The Stela that's there was a people named Israel living in Canaan by 1207 BCE. The Apuru or the Hebrew connection to these words Hebrew or Apu in Egypt, sources were the early Israelites. Apiru had a social economical meaning rather than a specific group. So this term Israel was a social economic meaning. It was not for a specific group. So those who were considered to be the Apiru was a term applied to Canaanites, Amorites, and other Canaanite people. When they emerged into the land of Egypt, they were known as the Apiru. It was not a distinct term for ethnic group, but it was a social economy term that developed from out of Canaan. The early Israelites were in contact of a collapse of Canaanite culture, not its cause, and the most of the Israelites did not come out of Canaan. They emerged from within it and was not violently conquest of Canaan, most other people. So they emerged out of Canaan.
Peace. This is from Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor. This is a book I know that's popular among a lot of Asiatics, Hebrews, Moors alike. This is chapter 3, Afro-Asian culture goes to Europe. The Sumerians, Babylonians, and Ethiopians were black people, quote unquote. They contributed much to the advancement of civilization because they studied astrology. They were capable of formulating many principles of astronomy. These quote unquote black people were so sagacious and skillful that they were able to divide the years into months, weeks, hours, minutes, so on and so forth. Next paragraph. The most famous of the Babylonian kings was Hammurabi. He ruled about 2150 BC. He was outstanding for his codification of a system of laws founded on retaliation as the punitive measure for crime. He also established a 7-day week with the last day, rest day, or Sabbath. This idea was adopted by the Hebrews and then transmitted to the Greeks, Romans, and other Europeans. Again, the Hammurabi Code was adapted by the Hebrews, and Hammurabi was an Amorite, which is a branch of Canaanites. Peace.
Yeah, just to add on, we're going to go from that same source from Babylon to Timbuktu. This is page 106, where it states the Canaanites and Phoenicians in Africa. Now, we're not saying everything Rudolph Windsor says is correct, but we're definitely going into this source because we know a lot of brothers are familiar with this. So the language which is called Hebrew Phoenician or Canaanite was employed in the lands called Phoenicia, Palestine, or Canaan for over 1,000 years before the Arameans, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob came to Canaan. The Israelites lost their Aramaic language and adopted the Hebrew speech of the Canaanites, the Hebrew Phoenician. The Hebrew-speaking Phoenicians, aka Canaanites, established their great city Carthage at Tunis in North Africa. All of the Canaanites were black people. Before the Phoenicians established their colony in Carthage in Africa, many Hebrew-speaking Canaanites had migrated across northern Africa. Many Hebrew-speaking Canaanites had migrated across Africa. So here he identifies the Hebrew language is of Canaanite origin. It's not a language of the people we refer to as Hebrews or the people we refer to as Israel. This is a Canaanite language, and also he refers to them as Canaanites. Hebrew-speaking Canaanites have migrated across North Africa. Oh yeah. So there's a inscription that was found in Tangiers, where many historians such as Sudeus, Procopius, Muhammad Crescensus, all translated, said that the people of North and West Africa were descendants of the Canaanites who were forced out of the land by Joshua ben Nun, as Joshua son of Nun, the robber. They also referred to him as. And when the Israelites fell to the Philistines, they too went into North Africa, and that's how they became part of the kingdoms that Ghana, Mali, etc., etc. And they were the Hebrew-speaking Canaanites that were referred to by Rudolph Windsor in this verse.
And we're going to close with this. Procopius later identified the early emergence from Palestine with the Moors of his day. So he identified these people who lived in North Africa, who was the Israelites that fled North Africa, as well as the Canaanites. He identified them as the Moors of his day.
Okay. We'll yield the rest of our time.
Okay.
Well, it was 5 seconds left, so that was perfect.
So you're good to go. Anyway, so it ain't no sweat. Okay, so now I usually do like a recap of things that you guys said before we always start our time. And when we go, excuse me, when it's your turn again, you can do the exact same thing. Again, we start your time when you say you're ready. That way you ain't got to be rushed into it or anything like that. So you guys mentioned the mesh steel, the Misha steel. You guys brought out page 106 here, where you spoke about in the book Babylon the Timbuktu, which is a book that most brothers should use. It has some good history in there, where it talks about the Hebrew-speaking Canaanites and makes mentions of the Israelites. You made a point to say that the Canaanites, that blacks and Negroes were descended from Canaanites. Am I correct in saying that? I just want to make sure. Okay, I'm glad you nodded your head, so I'm not incorrect with stating that. And the Israelites was a part of that, and they just chose to separate from them. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, you ready?
Okay, you ready?
Yes. All right, so we're going to start our 10 minutes now. So where I want to start off first before I give it to CHAATAZA. Israelite, the term, two things. Hebrew itself comes from a man. Like everything in the scriptures, for those that know the scriptures, everything starts and ends patriarchally. So the man named Eber, which Abraham descended from, is where you get Hebrew from. His name would be Eber in English, Ibar, or Hebrew. So when you say Hebrew, that's why when they call Abraham the Hebrew, they was talking about because he descended from a man named Eber. When you go to Genesis 32 and 28, and then CHAATAZA, you can have it from here. In Genesis 32 and 27, it says, and he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. This is when the Most High, when the angel wrestled with Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with the Most High, and with men hast thou prevailed. So when you call yourself a children of Israel, you're not calling yourself by landmass or anything. You're saying you're descend from the direct lineage of Israel. And we know Israelites were of a Shemitic stock. The Canaanites was a Hamitic stock. So there's no way that they can be the same people, even if they lived in the same land like we do in America. In America, you have Chinese, Japanese, XYZ, and they all can call themselves American, and they can all speak English. But when you ask them what their nationality is, you're going to get different answers everywhere. So that was not a really good presentation there. CHAATAZA, you can have it from there.
And especially that if you want to turn around and try to like base anything on scriptures, period. First of all, we know that the Bible predates the Quran, and we know that the Quran predates the Circle 7 Quran. You understand? Like realistically, they call the Quran the new kid on the block. Well, I mean, the Circle 7 was written by Noble Drew Ali in like what, the 1900s?
The early.
You understand? I'll give you the floor back. No swear. Y'all can
We
say
apologize.
y'all can say.
I
no sweat.
appreciate it because y'all gonna mess with our time now, interrupted us. That's why we was quiet.
Now y'all could say that. Y'all could say he wrote it. Y'all could say he didn't write it. Whatever the case may be, that book did not surface and touch the earth until literally the 1900s. You understand? The Quran didn't come around till 622 AD. You understand? And it contradicts directly what's inside the scriptures. Number one, the Bible is very clear about how everybody was separated after the flood. This is Genesis, the 10th chapter and the 32nd verse. These are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations, in their nations, and by these the nations were divided in the earth after the flood. After the Lord divided these nations, there was a nation, there was a nationality, there was an ethnic group of people. That's why Kat brought out that you can't be an Israelite unless you're the son of somebody, which is why it can't be a catch-all phrase. It's why it has to be an ethnicity. It has to be a nationality, because you have to directly, it means to be the son of. You understand? Which is why this is 1 Corinthians, the 16th chapter and the 13th verse. O ye seed of Israel. His seed comes from his loins. That's where we all came from. We all came from our father's seed. His servant. Ye children of Jacob. This is why it's so important that Kat brought up that Jacob's name was changed to Israel, because this is the chosen nation that he was going to establish, his chosen ones. You understand? His is the Lord our God, and his judgments are in all the earth. Now, this is very important because I'm going to drop down to verse 16. Even of the covenant which he made with Abraham, and of his oath unto Isaac, and hath confirmed to the same to Jacob for a law, and to Israel for an everlasting covenant. Now, I'm going to take it a step further. This nation that he established, which you wanted to name a bunch of different, you understand, other ethnic groups which were inside Canaan. Well, let's find out what the Lord thought about them. You understand? So now this is Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter and the 17th verse. It says, but thou shalt utterly destroy them. This is the Lord speaking to Israel. That's the they. The them is going to be as follows, namely the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, as the Lord thy God hath commanded thee, that they teach you not to do after their abominations which they have done unto their gods, so should ye sin against the Lord your God. Meaning, if we were to deal with these nations, if we were to want to fall under or these titles and their culture and merge it with ours, that's something that the God of this Bible, whom you understand the Quran was plagiarized from, is against. And that's a major issue. You understand? Take it one step further in the scriptures, then I'm gonna get just a little bit history to show that there was absolutely proof that we didn't just start in the land of Canaan, that we left in an exodus from Egypt, and that everything inside these scriptures is substantiated. So the last thing I'm gonna say scripture-wise is Amos 3:1. You understand? This is the word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family, which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. It doesn't matter how many families of the earth, you understand, that you want to, you understand. We got 4 minutes. Okay. I'm almost done.
No, you got it.
Oh, Khan. It doesn't matter how many families you want to name. Israel's the only one that the Lord dealt with. So there's no need for us to be, why would we call ourselves something outside of what the Creator labeled us? Here's another thing. This was in Serabit El Qadim, you understand, which this is located in the southwest Sinai Peninsula. In 1761, Barthold Nibiru, a German explorer, found a huge cemetery with tombs and a sepulchre atop an inaccessible mountain called Serabut El Qadim. Inscriptions were found on the tombs inside the sepulchre. Now, what were these? It says, at first he offered his doubts. The inscriptions were made by Egyptians, as no carved inscriptions were ever found in Egypt. Rather, they were partially to be painted images on plaster. So when they started really looking into this, they realized this didn't have anything to do with Egyptian records. What they started to do is they started to call these the Sinai inscriptions. And what they started to read is, first it says, in addition to all this, Nebuchadnezzar found numerous engravings of quails on the tombstones. Namely, right after that, it says right here, hold on, it says, this was marked as Turbut es Yahud, grave of the Jews. Now, what would this be doing with quail markings on it through the Sinai Peninsula? Well, they started to keep and continue in this area to look at the markings. And they found direct passages from the scriptures of Miriam being turned leprous in the wilderness, written in ancient Hebrew, or what people ignorantly call Proto-Sinaitic. And what happens is that these scholars are starting to realize this was not a Proto-Canaanite language. This was actually originally Hebrew, and that the scholars have been misinformed, and that they didn't get that from the hieroglyphs, that the hieroglyphs were taken from the Israelites. And the proof was that these inscriptions was predating the other inscriptions that they were finding, and it was the same path that Israel took inside that wilderness. But they want to say there's no bones. Where's the bones? Where's the bones? Well, guess what? They found the graveyard in the same route that took us into the promised land. That's called archaeology. We got 2 minutes left. Anybody wanted to add anything?
Well, you done?
I'm done.
You done all the way?
For now.
Okay, you made a point to say, like in Genesis, I just want to go back to Genesis. You made a point to say that we were all Canaanites, all black Negroes descent. We were all Canaanites. But when you read Genesis 11, and I don't know if CHAATAZA read it, is it 11 or 10 when he divided the nations? I think it was 10. When and I just want to reiterate that when it says these are the families of the sons of Noah after the generations in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth. So we were never meant to be all Israel, because we're not. We were never meant to be all Arabs, all Moab, all Moor, all Ammonites, all Edomites. We were meant to be divided, and then the Lord would choose one set of people that he loved. That's why whenever you read the scriptures, all you hear throughout is Israel, 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 Israel. You don't hear nothing else. The Quran comes hundreds of years later. The Circle 7 Quran, thousands of years later. and then they try to piggyback off of our records. So what I would like in your response or rebuttal, whether you do it now or when we do the Q&A, is we need some hardline evidence from some ancient record that can back up that we are Moors, which is, as you stated, we are. We haven't seen that as of yet. The mesh of steel that I don't want to go over the top.
No,
40 some seconds.
Yes,
The mesh steel.
It's got an alarm. So
Okay, perfect. The mesh steel that you mentioned, which is a Moabite stone, anybody can Google this and look this up, was set up around 840 BC by King Mesha of Moab. And it says Mesha tells how Chemosh, the god of Moab, had been angry with his people and allowed them to be subjugated to Israel. So even on the stone itself that you brought up for me to reference is making a difference between Moabites and Israelites. You had a king of Moab, and he's angry, and now they're subjugated to the people of Israel. So it's impossible for us to be the same if even on the stone that you reference is making a clear distinction between two different nations.
That's the time.
That's the time. So now, of course, like I said, you have the opportunity to speak first before we give you your 10 minutes. You can say whatever you want. You let me know when you're ready to start your 10 minutes.
I could reply back to it.
Yeah, now you see I was like short before we started our 10, so we don't want it to be too long. We'll save that for the Q&A.
Okay.
But of course, you could take like 2 or 3 minutes to reiterate any point.
Just to be clear, you want us to?
Nah, because he said.
No, what I'm saying is like, you know how like, okay, so like when, like when y'all did y'all 10 minutes, I kind of like
what the second round is predicated.
Oh, the second round, it was 3 subjects. Right. The one was proving we were the Moors, which is the round we just did. Another round is showing how the Quran is a part of the Abrahamic faith. And another round, which I wasn't really in agreement with, but I don't have a problem with it. The third round was how the Native Indians or Aborigines or something like that. Okay. So whichever you choose to do it, if you choose to do the Aborigines route or the Quran route, it's up to you. But what I was saying, just to be clear, like, and when y'all finished, I just kind of recapped what y'all said, made a few statements, and then started my 10. So I'm giving you the same courtesy back.
Shalom. We in total agreement that the nation was created to be separate. We know that the word separate means to be holy. So that's why we said that the Canaanites, the Israelites emerged out of Canaan and separated from the Canaanites from what they were doing. That it was an indigenous community in there, that the Israelites was a subgroup of Canaanites. For instance, in Canaan, there was a order of the Essenes, but they were called the Asaya. And this group lived in Mount Carmel in Galilee, and they were called the Galilean Essenes or the Nazarenes or the Al-Nasarah. This was a group of Canaanites that when Moses III came into the land of Canaan, he came in contact with these Canaanites that was called the Asaya, and he said that they worshiped the one God El. They refrained from eating pork. They were all white. So he came in contact with a group of Canaanites who were separate from the rest of the Canaanites and worshiped the one God El, and that this is documented because he was the Napoleon of the ancient world. So we're saying that there were groups of Canaanites that did not worship idols, did not indulge in abominable acts, that there was a group of Canaanites who was called the Asaya, who separated themselves from the Canaanites and worshiped the god El. And they high priest was Melchizedek. And this is documented by Moses III, who came into the land of Canaan. So we agreed that the nations should be separated, and we're saying that there was a group of Canaanites who was known as the Asayas, who separated themselves from Canaan, worshiped the one God El. Peace.
All right, so you guys ready to start your second round?
No, this is the round's going.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
that's what I was trying to say. I was letting him respond. He wanted to make that statement.
Okay, cool.
We want to give you breathing room.
Right,
all right.
You know what I mean? Like, we don't want you to
appreciate
run
that.
right
Thank you. All right, that's
fair.
great. No, we like that. We like that. That's what's up.
They like to say we don't let people speak and shit. You know what I'm saying?
King. That's peace. That's peace.
That's what's up. All right, so now he's gonna start your 10 minutes whenever you're ready.
You ready?
1 second.
No sweat.
So are we going into the Moorish Quran now? Or?
Yeah, you're gonna do. You got to show how the Quran, whether you use the Circle 7 one or the Quran, you got to show how that's a part of the Abrahamic faith. Like, I don't even know what that is, but you got to show me how that's connected to the Bible.
Okay, she going to the history of the Moorish Quran. I'm gonna go into the science.
Islam. Well, when you look at the
Yeah, you started now. So now your time is officially started.
All right.
10 minutes.
The Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. The brother said it was written in 1900s. As you can see from the cover, it says divinely prepared by the prophet. And so there's numerous pieces of literature that show identical information. This is why some people get misled by the title and the information. Some of the information, a majority of information you can see is in Unto Thee I Grant, right? And when you obtain the book Unto Thee I Grant, it says that the Tibetans, right, the Tibetan people, they had different scrolls with this information in the holy, in the Circle 7 Quran. And then once you reference that, it says that these transcripts of this information comes from Akhenaten. And so the information, again, from the Circle 7 Quran wasn't just written in the 1900s. It goes back to Unto Thee I Grant, which was, again, they make reference of the Tibetans as being the custodians of this information. And then once you read that information, it shows that it references back, again, to the Pharaoh Akhenaten, who also had a priesthood and who was also influenced by Canaanites. And this is a picture of one of the Tibetan monks holding the scrolls, which again is the information is identical in regards to those transcripts.
Peace. So in our Moorish Quran, it talks about Jesus called the Nazarene. And when you study the Nazarenes, they were a group of people called the Ebionites. And the Ebionites, they were Hebrews who acknowledged Jesus as the Messiah and adhere to the laws of the Torah. So there was a writings called the Recognitions of Clement, and in the Recognitions of Clement, it talks about this Clement was a gentleman who came in contact with Peter, and they had conversations, and he was explaining to him the Ebionite teachings. And the Ebionite teachings is in continuity with the Circle 7 Quran, because it refers to him as a Nazarene. So the Ebionites believe in the laws of Moses, but deny that the written book of Moses was the same as the law, the scriptures, and have been corrupted by the false text. Homilies chapter 2, verse 38, the Holy Quran of Mecca 227, and Holy Quran of Mecca 279, and Homilies 238, 4 and 40. So the Nazarene Ebionite teachings, which is mentioned in the Circle 7 Quran, is in continuity with the Holy Quran of Mecca that talks about that these Ebionites acknowledge that the law has been, the old books of Moses has been corrupted, which is according with the Holy Quran of Mecca. And also the Ebionites taught that Jesus as a prophet, in fact, was a true prophet and predicted by Moses in Deuteronomy 18, 15 and 18, which is in the Recognitions of 221 and Holy Quran 1920. So it shows that the Circle 7 Quran is in continuity with the Ebionite teachings, who are also the Nazarenes. So this goes back to Abraham, because they were the ones who had adhered to the Abrahamic way of life, or the Abrahamic faith. This is all in continuity with the Moorish Quran. And we was going into the Canaanites. But the name, when you say Shalom, the term Shalom go back to a Canaanite deity called Shelah or Shalah. So we still giving recognition to a Canaanite god. When you say Shalom, you can look that term up and you'll see that goes back to a Canaanite deity. Even the name Jerusalem or the name Zion. The name Zion, if you look in the Encyclopedia Britannica, it says that is a Canaanite name. So you still see reminiscences of Canaanite culture all throughout Israel, because they were actually one and the same and emerged from the Canaanites, and they still kept a remnants of the Canaanite culture.
All right, so yeah, so as he's saying, you could see the continuity between the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad and the teachings in the Circle 7 Quran that's in continuity with the Torah. So the whole purpose of the coming of Prophet Muhammad was to set the record straight, because the teachings of Jesus were not professed and they were corrupted. For example, if you look at some of the teachings of Paul, Paul says there's no such thing as unclean foods. But that's not true according to the laws of Torah. There are foods that are unclean that you can't consume. So, you know, he said you don't have to be circumcised, which is against the law. So it was a lot of things in terms of some of the New Testament that had laws that you know, went against the Torah, that Prophet Muhammad had to set the record straight. Because Prophet Muhammad, he wasn't from he wasn't among the tribes of the idol worshippers. He was from the Koresh tribe. And what was the name of the? He was part of a group of people referred to as the Hanif. And the Hanif worshiped the one God, and they were not worshiping the multi-deities and what have you. So they were of the Abrahamic faith and keeping pure to those teachings passed down through Ishmael. Continue. So, you know, Prophet Muhammad, he's the one that came in and smashed all the idols. He was the one that basically took the people of the Arabian Peninsula and brought them to the ways of Yah, brought them to the ways of the Most High. And he spread those teachings throughout the world. And what you have to also understand is, before the coming of Prophet Muhammad, for centuries, the Romans was ruling in the Arabian Peninsula and all North Africa. And you know, there were uprisings among the Israelite people or the Jews, but none of them were able to defeat the Romans or expel them. You can even look in the book of Maccabees with the Maccabees riots when they were trying to revolt. But it wasn't until the coming of Prophet Muhammad that the Romans were defeated and expelled out of not just Arabia, but out of all of North Africa. So it was Prophet Muhammad who unified not just the people within the Holy Land, but even beyond. Because you have to understand, it was also a political movement. It wasn't just religious. It was a political movement. And many people joined Muhammad in aiding them to expel the Romans, because they was forcing them into Christianity. And according to the teachings of Islam, there's no compulsion in Islam. So the people of Islam, or the people of the lands, were not forced to convert. All they had to do was pay a tax, which was less than what the Romans were requiring. And if they converted, there was no tax. So that was an incentive for them to convert beyond just the tenets of Islam, which allowed them to, you know, again, follow the Abrahamic faith, which is why you see it wasn't that Muhammad was copying the teachings of the Israelite people. It was that Muhammad was adhering to the group of people that he was from, the Hanif, and their teachings, which stem from Abraham, all the way down to the laws disseminated by Moses. You ready?
So again, we are recognizing the religion of Abraham and the deen of Abraham, and that, like the Moor said, he was just reiterating that what was in the Torah and the Roman oppression that was occupying the land of Canaan.
Just so you know, 2 minutes left. Just want to give you a heads up.
Okay, I'm gonna close with that.
No, you got to use the 2 minutes.
Okay, I got 2 minutes. So again, you have the term Melchizedek, king of Salem, or Islam, which means peace, because Islam means peace. So peace has no beginning. If anybody could tell me the beginning of peace, they could tell me the beginning of Islam, but you can't. So when you hear the word Shalom, Salem, and so forth, this is peace, and peace always existed. So Muhammad did not bring a new way of life or a new a deen. It was always the deen that always existed throughout the ancient prophets, throughout Israel, and throughout during the times of Melchizedek. So Islam did not begin with Muhammad. It always exists because peace always existed.
Peace. And again, in regards to this information being kept by the Muslims in India, I just wanted to read a quick passage from Know Thyself and the Father God Allah. And I'm going to jump down. The genealogy of Jesus with 18 years of the events, life, works, and teaches in India, Europe, and Africa. These events occurred before he was 30 years of age. So again, when we're dealing with the Circle 7 Quran, we're dealing with those 18 missing years of his life, which is not in the Bible, but these are life lessons for yourself. This is about your growth and development. So it goes on to say these secret lessons are for all those who love Jesus and desire to know about his life, works, and teaches. Dear readers, do not force to use these lessons. They are for good, peace, happiness for all those who love Jesus. Dear mothers, teach these lessons to your little ones that they may learn to love instead of hate. Dear fathers, by these lessons, you can set your house in order and your children will learn to love instead of hate. These lessons of this pamphlet are not for sale, but for the sake of humanity. As I am a prophet and a servant is worthy of his hire. You can receive this pamphlet at an expense. The reason these lessons have not been known is because the Muslims of India, Egypt, and Palestine had these secrets and kept them back from the outside world. And when time appointed by Allah, they loosened the keys and freed these secrets.
That's the time,
and kept them back from outside world. And when the time appointed by Allah, they loosened the keys and freed these secrets. And for the first time in ages, these secrets have been delivered to the hands of Muslim America, Islam.
All right, no sweat. That's the time.
Okay, so
you want to just get straight to it? You want to?
No, I want to talk.
Oh, you like the recaps?
Yeah. Okay, so now you made a few statements. Now this round, for those that don't know, this round is about proving that the Quran is a part of the Abrahamic faith. If anybody paying attention, you'll notice they didn't pull one scripture to back up the claim to substantiate the Quran. They mentioned how the New Testament was messed up because Paul said you could eat unclean foods. That's nowhere in the Bible. Not one single verse in the Bible does Paul or any prophet say you can eat unclean foods. When we have the Q&A, please give me the verse for that. There's nowhere in there where Paul says it's to not get circumcised. You show me that. You have to show me that. And then we'll explain to you what it really means. You also mentioned the Quran came from a Tibetan background when you mentioned the Circle 7. So the Tibetan people are Chinese people.
I said they were the custodians. They came from Akhenaten.
Okay, but they were Tibetan though, right?
No. Akhenaten is in Kemet.
Right.
Akhenaten was the pharaoh. I said the Tibetans, they were the custodians.
Who were the Tibetans housed your sacred records?
They had some records at one particular time.
That belong to you guys.
Right.
So then they utilized them, right?
They held the records. They were custodians of it.
Okay, so your Circle 7 comes from Tibetans.
No, they were custodians of it. I said
So if I can get you right, I'm gonna say it and you let me know if I say it right. Akhenaten owned them. The Tibetans housed them. Correct. Is what you're saying. Right. Okay, so let's go with that narrative. Akhenaten is an African or a Hamite, which still would not make him a Moor, which still would not make him an Israelite, and still does not show how that's a part of the Abrahamic faith, because they're two different family lines, which again goes back to it. So now again, I'll do the scripture side. CHAATAZA will do the history side. So you let me know when you start the time.
And we're good.
Okay, so where I'm gonna start first is Isaiah 34. When we're talking about, there's a criteria in order to be a prophet of the Most High as far as the children of Israel goes. If you're talking about from a Kemetic side, Islam side, they have their own set of criteria. But if you're talking about the Bible and the scriptures, which was this round is about, the criteria to be a prophet of God, Yahweh in the Hebrew, Deuteronomy 18:18 says, I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, their brothers, like unto thee, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. So that's the criteria that Israel knew. So if it was Elijah, even though they called him a Tishbite, they knew he was an Israelite that just lived in that land. Whether it was Paul, whether it was Peter, John, whoever it was, he was a prophet because he was from among their brethren. So now we're talking about adding the Quran to this book. Isaiah 34:16 says, seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read, which again, criteria from our holy records. None of these shall fail, meaning the things that are contained in these records will not fail. And it also says, none shall want her mate. And the mate that they try to pair with the Bible is that Quran. Whether you call it the Quran or the Circle 7, he said the Circle 7 existed a long time ago. When I Googled it, they said Noble Drew Ali brought it out in 1908. So which one is it? And if the Quran indeed was the word from the Prophet Muhammad, why would Noble Drew Ali have to modify it? And if Noble Drew Ali is calling Jesus a true prophet, then what is the point of Noble Drew Ali? When Christ himself said, many false prophets shall come in my name. Beware of them. Galatians, the 1st chapter. Here's another criteria of how these guys get dismissed, and then I'll hand it over to CHAATAZA. Galatians 1:6 says, I marvel that ye are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Christ unto another gospel, which is not another, which is what these are. All these are, like, they bring up shalom and how shalom means this and Islam means that. You can have words that means tons. America has a word called peace. So anybody can have that word. Anybody can even have that practice. To say that because they say peace or use peace does not mean they're now interconnected. America believes they want peace, but their peace is not our peace. So you can't even join them two together just because you try to play with words. So now it says, I'm sorry, which is not another, but there be some that trouble you and will pervert the gospel of Christ. And it says, but though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. So if it ain't from Genesis to Revelations, if it's not a prophet from the bloodline of the nation of Israel, then that man cannot be a prophet. I yield to CHAATAZA.
The water cap. So now this is called Satan's Angels Exposed. This is a very rare book. You could barely find it. If you can, it's going to be for about $500. Well, I'm so happy that you ended with that scripture right there. I'll tell you why. Well, this is a little history about Islam. It says the Arabs of that day. You understand? Now hear this good. During when Muhammad stepped on the scene around the 600s, you understand? It says the Arabs of that day worshipped many gods of the sky, stars and the moon. That's where that moon and that crescent comes from. And even that they believed were sacred stones. That's idol worship. The center of this stone's reverence was in Mecca. A square structure of stone in Mecca became their holiest shrine in the world. It was called Kaaba, which means cube. It had been rebuilt about 10 times. They believe the first Kaaba was erected, get this, by angels from heaven. The second by Adam, the third by his son Seth, the fourth by Abraham, and his son Ishmael by Hagar. Here's the thing, though. Abraham ain't circle no rock. Abraham ain't bow himself to no Kaaba stone, and an angel's not going to come down, you understand, and build an idol, you understand? Straight up and down. But people who are removed from the gospel, people who created another gospel, well, they got to be accursed for this. You understand? It must be pointed out that in his era, the Kaaba contained several statues representing gods. One was called, get this, Allah, the up one, a tribal god. Along with Allah, there were 3 other gods called Allah's daughters. The Quraysh tribes began worshiping Allah as their chief god and was presented to the Meccans as the Lord of their soil. Let's fast forward. After bitter wars, because Muhammad had to spread this religion with the sword. We're not killing anybody to become an Israelite, man. Right. You understand? Even though that's what you're born, a literal birthright. After bitter wars, Muhammad conquered Mecca in 630 AD. He cleared away all the idols except the black stone in Kaaba, which is considered holy to this day by Muslims. From then on to this day, pilgrims must walk around the Kaaba stone 7 times and kiss or salute the black stone. Show me anywhere in the Bible where Abraham kissed the stone, where he bowed to a rock, man. You understand? The black stone apparently was a meteorite, was considered sacred, and was built into the wall of Kaaba. You understand? Now, here's another thing. In the first days, Muslims adopted several of the Jewish rites. Why? Because Muhammad plagiarized the Bible. And we'll get into that history. They prayed facing Jerusalem. Jewish feast days were observed. But when the relations with the Jews became tense because the Jews would not compromise, because the Jews would not worship rocks, you understand? That's when, you understand, he decided to turn around and face Mecca. Well, I wonder if there's another source which could corroborate that story. Oh, well, this book looks familiar. This is from Babylon to Timbuktu. This is the very book that you pulled earlier. I believe you pulled page 108. Well, sure, I'm going to pull page 45. When Muhammad was born, many Arabs were still worshiping the sun, the stars, the spirits, and the idols. Well, there's that crescent moon again.
There's that crescent
and the star.
Moon.
Wow. Then it just so happens that these two are nearly identical. The Arabs possessed 360 idols, one for each day of the year. In his youth, he was never taught to read or write. Talking about Muhammad. After Muhammad became a camel driver, he traveled to remote and intriguing lands. Well, here's the thing. Muhammad at first was an illiterate camel jockey. So while this illiterate was running around on his business trips, he met Jews, Christians, and members from other sects. He interrogated them. So now why did he do this? Because he turned around and he saw that his people were drug addicts and alcoholics and murderers and you understand, just disgusting creatures. And he said, I see how unified the Christians are because they have one God. I see how unified the Jews are because they have one God. So what he did was he decided to adopt these tenets from Judaism and from Christianity. So now, once again, you can do that when your book comes around, let's say thousands and hundreds of years later. So now, It says, it seemed to him that the angel Gabriel appeared, commissioning him to articulate a new religion. But if any man creates a new gospel, let him be accursed, though I or an angel tell you. That's in the Bible. You understand? But you got to say the Bible's tampered with if you want to, you understand, deal with foolishness like that Quran, which is, I mean, toilet paper. Well, how much time I got left? Okay. So now, it says the offspring of Judaism and Christianity are Islam. Muhammad tried to construct his religion as closely as he could to the Jewish religion. He favored the Jews by accepting many of their laws and traditions. When the Jews refused to be converted, he commanded his followers to stop turning to the holy city of Jerusalem in prayer, but rather to turn to the city of Mecca. You understand? And he adopted all these things. It says, in order to win the pagans into the church, Christianity adopted many barbaric customs and traditions. Likewise, Muhammad, to gain loyalty of the pagans, Arabs adopted many of their beloved customs. The Kaaba stone, an idol, was to receive high regard in the new religion.
That's the one they kiss, right?
That's right, and circle. And the temple at Mecca was to remain right, exactly. Circles the stone 7 times. You understand? Here's the thing. Nobody cares about the missing years of Jesus. Noble Drew Ali did because it was bullshit. You understand? So
you know
now,
what, if I can add, the reason why they would say that these are the missing years of Christ is because it makes it seem like it's a mystery to everybody.
So now I got to study this. This is
when
deep.
the answer to what Christ did in those missing years is right in the Bible. It's not even that hard to find. I could show you if you guys want to learn it. I'll show you right where what he did during his missing years. You can go ahead.
Yeah. In the year 627, the Battle of Foss occurred. The Jewish tribes were defeated. Now, this is actually the Jews, you understand? Were defeated by the armies of Muhammad. 700 Jews were gathered in the marketplace and offered the alternative, the Quran or the sword.
The what?
The Quran or the sword. But the devout Jews were accustomed to martyrdom.
I thought the Christians was murderers.
It's crazy, right? You think it was the white man, but the Arabs murdered. They did not hesitate in their choice. Muhammad carried out his bestial threat, executed the Jews, and the women were sold. We're talking about black women here. Sold to be whores to Arabs, to dirt, just like when the sisters are getting banged in the corner stores, man, because they got a little bit of money, man. And then that's what you want to put on us, man. Goddamn Islam.
Yes.
You understand?
Oh,
that's my time.
All right, that's our 10 minutes. Of course, before we begin your 10 minutes, you can say a few things. This round, I think, is supposed to be about the Aborigines. I don't see the, what's that? What's this round supposed to be?
This is supposed to be about, I mean, we could lump it all in together, the identity of Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, and the proof that we are Moors. You understand?
Oh, okay. So this is that round. So now, before we start your time, if there's anything you would like to say, of course you do so.
Yeah, y'all debating the wrong people, because we not Arabs.
We know.
But so, the Quran is Arabic.
Let me explain something. The Kaaba is, according to Leviticus 26:1. Let's get. We don't got time to read the scriptures, right? Do we got time to read scriptures?
Not during this time. Well, that would account for your time.
Okay, yeah, all right. So I'm not going to read it. But when you read Leviticus 26:1, it tells you that not to worship idols. Exodus 21, 20, 45.
I know.
Those are all idols. So what the Muslims are doing, we're not in continuity with that. That's idol worship. We as Moorish Americans does not in continuity with kissing a Kaaba and doing these idol worshiping
this
things.
round was about proving the Quran was a part of the Abrahamic faith. Muhammad was an Arab.
Yes,
Muhammad was not a Moor.
But Muhammad was of the Quraysh tribe of the descendant of Kedar, which means dark, what became known as the Moors.
Oh, okay. We say that for the Q. Let me know.
And when you read the Holy Quran, chapter 6, 48, 74 and 82, it tells you not to worship heavenly bodies. So you know
you have a star on your shoulder.
Yeah, a star is a symbol. It's not worshiping. You have a star behind you.
This is not a star.
Well, a shield behind you.
That's right.
But it's not.
A name.
But it's not worship. You're not worshiping it though. We're not worshiping the symbol. It's just a symbol. A symbol used to express a hidden meaning. But what I'm saying is that we don't worship the Kaaba and these different things. We're gonna get into that when we get into the rebuttal rounds. And as you say in the Quran is a copy of the Bible, we understand that. See, we're not dogmatic. Muhammad was a Hanif. He learned from the Nazarene Christians that was in Mecca at the time. We understand this. He was learned from them. That's not what we get into. But we also know that the laws of the Torah was derivative from the Code of Hammurabi, because nobody starts from the beginning with civilization. If you already got a car built, you're not going to try to rebuild a car. You're going to take that car was already built and add on to it and make that car better. So what the Israelites did when they was in Babylon, they took the laws of Hammurabi, they added to it to make it better. And just like the laws of what Muhammad did when he learned amongst the Nazarene Christians, he learned from them.
They did not.
Well, I guess.
We'll get into that.
Well, yeah, we'll save that for the Q&A.
Yeah,
but in the meantime, we got 10 minutes, and y'all got to prove our identity.
Just give me 1 second to set my clock.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, he want to set his clock too.
No sweat.
You think we fronting up here?
No. I'm just saying.
I'm just fucking with you, man.
You got to keep time, man.
Yeah, keep time. Listen, I need y'all to prove the point.
We on it, man. Trust me. The Q&A round, everything gonna come full circle.
I hope so.
Yeah, me
These
too.
past 20 minutes,
No
boy,
pun intended.
been rough as shit.
We gonna see.
I said prove the Quran belongs to the Abrahamic faith. I ain't see one scripture.
Nothing.
It's like 866 books or 80 books in the Bible. One verse should have came out. Just let me know when y'all ready.
The verses is coming. Hang on 1 second.
You ain't use them.
You should have used that.
Y'all supposed to use them. That's the first thing you're supposed to do. You got a bunch of scriptures.
That's the basis of the faith. That's where we know about Abraham.
Listen, if I had a verse that said Abraham followed the Quran, that's where I'm going first. That's a body bag. But you let me know when y'all ready. Y'all ready to rock and roll? Y'all got to prove.
Yeah.
It's on y'all. Hammurabi, wasn't that the 8 that got killed by the white man?
He'll tell you who the devil
right?
is.
Wasn't the 8 called Hammurabi?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Y'all wasn't talking about him though, right? Y'all wasn't talking about the 8, right?
No, we talking about the Hammurabi codes that.
Oh, okay.
With the Torah.
Oh, okay.
They were Shemitic, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So like, oh, the Bible.
Oh, okay.
They basically try to say the same argument that like they try to do with Ma'at, but it's like they're only proving the Bible more because if all the nations, you understand, had them
Having
codes,
a moral
it's
code
crazy.
does not make you the same people.
No, we're not saying that.
You know, America is against. America tell you they're against murder too.
They say you can't kill.
Yeah, America say you can't kill either. You can't steal. Any country can have a moral ethnic code.
No, we gonna get specific.
Okay, no sweat. Y'all ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, we ready.
All right, no sweat.
Start the clock.
All right,
Start the clock now.
All right, so first we're gonna go into anthropologist and historian, where she states, while blackness and Mohammedanism were stereotyped as evil, Renaissance representations of the Moor were vague, varied, inconsistent, and contradictory. As critics have established, the term Moor was used interchangeably with such ambiguous terms as African, Ethiopian, Negro, and even Indian to designate a figure from parts of the whole Africa or beyond who were either black or Muslim, neither or both. To complicate the division further, the Moor was characterized alternative. Well, we'll skip to the next one. So Michael Neal, who also is echoing Emily Bartell's point, was also a historian and anthropologist, states, insofar as the term Moor was a term of racial description, it could refer quite specifically to the Berber Arab people of the part of North Africa, then vaguely denominated as Morocco, Mauritania, or Barbary, or it could be used to embrace the inhabitants of the whole North African littoral, or it might be extended to refer to Africans generally, whether white, black, or tawny Moors, or by even more promiscuous extension, it might be applied, like Indian, to almost any dark-skinned peoples, listen closely, even on occasion, those of the New World. So we know the New World is what's referred to as the Americas. Continuing on. Consequently, when Marlos Valdez refers to the supine obedience of quote-unquote Indian Moors to their Spanish lords, it is usually assumed that the two terms are simply mutually intensified synonyms and that the magician means something like dusky New World natives. But Moor can often be employed in a fashion perhaps inflected even for the English by memories of the Spanish Reconquista as a religious category. So we're gonna move on. So right here you have an establishment of that. You wanted to add something real quick?
And in the 6th century, it was a European chronologist named John Pale. He said that the Western Sudan, this part of the world inhabited specifically of Africans or Moors, called themselves Moors. So he's saying that when he came in contact with them, they called themselves Moors. They did not refer to themselves. Somebody didn't refer to them as Moors. They refer to themselves as Moors. So you have also the Moors, who are people descendant of the people called the Almoravids, and the Almoravids or the Morbatun. This was a Hebrew people who was called the Bifar, who was emerged into the Moorish Empire. So you had Hebrews who was a part of the Almoravid dynasty that was Moors, and he says we came in contact with these people. They called themselves Moors. So now we have a reference here where not someone calling them Moors, but they calling themselves Moors, which is the 6th century European chronologist John Poriu. He says that in the Western Sudan, which we know that they were Israelites there as well, they refer to themselves as Moors, not somebody calling them Moors. And the term Moor is not a Latin term. The term Moor goes back to the Phoenician, that means Westerner. And it developed them more later down the line into what they call Greco and Latin term, would go back to 46 BC. So the term Moor itself is not a Latin or Greek term. It go back to the Phoenician. We have a reference where in the 6th century, a European come in contact with indigenous people in the Sudan, and they called themselves Moors as well.
Yeah, just 2 more points, and I'm gonna pass it to the Sheik, who's an expert on this history. So Louis Weckman, he translated a book called La Herencia Medieval de Mexico, because the Spaniards were the first to come in contact with the inhabitants of the Americas. So this is going to describe, when I say Hispaniola, we're talking about DR and Haiti, that island. The Hierophant, the Hieronymite friars referred to the inhabitants of Hispaniola as these Moors. In the initial years in New Spain, the term mosque was used to refer to name the indigenous places of worship, and a term al-Faqiq to refer to the indigenous priests. Martin Vasquez called Chulola a Moorish pueblo. Castelblanco had 14 mosques or places of worship, and many more existed in Talcala and Tecnoteclan, whose largest temple with exquisite stoneworks, etc., etc. So they refer to as mosques throughout the Americas. And you have it in the histories of the history and description of Africa, written by Leo Africanus, who had an Islamic name. He was referred to by the British Library as a Moor. He wrote a book in the year 1550 that was translated in 1600s, and he referred to the people of Africa as Moors. But here in the Americas, you have a man by the name of Joseph Brant, who was a chief of the Mohawks and a British military officer. He attended an institution erected by the Europeans called the Moorish Charity School. You also have James Adair, who wrote History of the American Indian, published in 1775. He was a historian from Ireland and was a trader, and he referred to the inhabitants of the Americas as Moors.
And to camel back off what the brothers is breaking down, again, the ancient Moors are the Phoenicians. Now, when you look at the Olmec civilization, which is the foundation of the mother civilization here in the Americas, that is an admixture of different groups, including the Mende people who had a Phoenician Canaanite bloodline. Also, the Shia people who also had that Aboriginal bloodline. And you also had what you call the mound builders that was in the area of New Mexico and Utah, which is the Anasazi people. Now, when you go into Walter Neves, who's a Brazilian anthropologist who researched the Lucia skull, he found other skeletal remains throughout the areas of Brazil and South America. And all of those particular skeletal remains were, again, Aboriginal or Melanesian people, dark melanated people, woolly hair, so on and so forth. So these people, along with the Anasazi people and the Mende people, all came together to form what you call the Olmec civilization, which is the Aztec word for the rubber people. And again, from those particular groups, this is where you get your Garafunya people, Yamasee, Kitiwa, or Aniyuya, Choctaw, all those particular groups, which most quote unquote people who are defined as black, whatever the case may be, have a particular tribal bloodline from those particular groups. Those groups were subdivided once they started to admix with Europeans, and some of those groups, in particular, what we later found out to be known as the Cherokee, struck a deal with Albert Pike, who was a Confederate general, and they decided to subjugate some of the darker skinned Asiatics from those particular tribes. Now, during the times of the prophet, as I speed up, during the times of the prophet, some of those particular groups became part of the Moorish Science Temple of America, because again, a lot of those groups are being classified and misnomered as Black, Negro, and colored. And also during that time, it was Columbus who put that term on those particular people as Indian. Indian is not a indigenous or aboriginal term of the original people. That's a misnomer, just like quote unquote Black is a misnomer of those particular people. That was already here in the Americas. So as time went on, you had something called the Racial Integrity Act of 1924, and that's when they started putting Black, Negro, and colored on the birth certificates, so on and so forth. So some of these groups, such as the Ben Ishmael and the Shawnee, who were along the White River in the area of Indiana, they migrated up to Chicago, but later became members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Again, because those particular Aboriginal people were being reclassified as Black, Negro, and colored, they came and proclaimed their nationality as Moorish Americans during the form of the Moorish Science Temple of America in Chicago, Illinois, in the 1920s. Also, the Lenape people, all right, they have a Phoenician Canaanite bloodline. So again, we're not talking about Moors who were under Orthodox Islam. We're talking prior to that, those particular Phoenician peoples came here to the Americas by way of the Mende people and became part of that whole Olmec paradigm. This is where you get a lot of your Aboriginal tribes, again, who were of a darker hue, and also those who populated the Caribbean islands. All right, so the ancient Moors are the Phoenician Canaanites, as well as the Olmecs. Also, Israelites who were part of that movement, such as the Bifar. They were also part of that migration from out of that Levant Canaanite area into West Africa, and then populated here in the Americas.
Yeah, and just lastly, that the Lenape, also known as the Nanacoke, they referred to themselves as Moors. They even fought the European in court when they were trying to brand them as Indian. They fought in the 1850s and later to be referred and identified as Moors. Name their place Moortown. So you have a group of people on the Eastern Seaboard
That's the time.
that refers to themselves as Moors.
Yours went off too.
This way he know we ain't lying this time.
Nah, it ain't about distrust, brothers.
Nah, listen, I'm a humorist,
Yeah,
man.
you already
We
know.
talk shit, man.
This is Cross the Line Radio. Y'all listen to the show before?
All the time, man.
Hey, man, you should be used to this shit, man.
Nah, we thick skin, baby.
So, I appreciate it because it's going to get rough.
It definitely will. It definitely will.
All right, so just to recap again, you said, damn, they didn't even hear all this shit here. You said the Native Indians were Moors, right? They call them Native Indians, Hispaniola, all that were Moors. That's what you presented, right? The lady that you mentioned, who's the lady? You mentioned a quote from a sister. I'm assuming that was a sister.
It's not a sister. Emily
Okay.
Bartell. So I presume it's not a sister.
Okay,
It's
no sweat, that's fine.
anthropologist.
There's an Emily Bartell, anthropologist. She's the one that makes this correlation where we all connected.
Well, it was
Now-
two of them, but
Okay.
yeah.
Only quick question before I go. I noticed you mentioned with Israelites was in there too.
Yes.
Right? So are you making Moors a race of people or a coalition of people?
Well, as I read from them, Moors have it's numerous meanings. So you have the Berber Arab people. You have it
North
used as a
Africans
racial.
and
You
the
have a
Arabs.
racial designation used
So
in
who's
Africa.
the race of Moors?
What we talking about when you say black? That's a misnomer. So
I don't care about the misnomer. I'm just
Okay.
saying, who's the race of Moors? What's
All right,
that
could you-
race?
Could you rephrase your question? What do you mean by race?
Oh, okay, no,
of
I'll
Moors?
wait for the Q. He
Okay,
told me
sure.
to wait for Q&A.
Okay.
Kind out of one kind.
So he said, my Lord said unto my Lord. Come on.
All right, so now we're gonna start our time, right? So now we're gonna
So right
show
Boom.
we're gonna show who the Native Indians really were. I'm gonna do my little piece of history, and I'm gonna pass it over to my junior, who's now damn near my senior in history. This is Lost Tribes, the Promised Land. This is damn near the only thing I need to say, and it don't take a minute. In this book called Lost Tribes, the Promised Land, for those that don't know, it's a very good book to get, pretty expensive now. Now, you should not mention that you have this book.
You should have read this page.
This book body bagged himself right here. So now in this book, you had this devil Montesinos that was observing the natives of the land, not just in Native America, but in South America and the Taino lands, etc. And as he's observing them, he's saying, man, these look like the lost tribes. So he goes and meets them. And so I'm going to read page 364. There's a bunch of other pages I could reference, but I don't want to take CHAATAZA's time. So I'm going to read this point. It says, and the woman got off and spoke to Francisco in an Indian tongue that Montesinos could not understand, although he could perceive that he was being identified in the conversation. She then turned to her male companions to explain the situation, and upon hearing her words, they rose, went over to Montesinos, and to his utter astonishment, they spoke Moroccan. No, hell no. To the utter astonishment, they said, Shema Yasha'Allah Yahweh Allahaya Nawa Yahweh Akkad, which being translated means, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. They have recited in Hebrew the fundamental credo of what they call it Judaism. A brief conversation ensued in their common ancestral tongue, according to Monsinos. They told him that they were of themselves of the tribe of Reuben. Very specific. Not like these guys where they want the Berbers, the damn Akhenaten and all of them to be Moors. He said they themselves was of the tribe of Reuben and that the tribe of Joseph lived on an island nearby. Body bag.
Well,
you got the floor.
The tribe of Joseph, you understand, and the islands nearby. What would the islands nearby be? That would be the Caribbean. Well, who is in the Caribbean? Well, we know that the Tainos were in the Caribbean. Well, let's just see something that we got here. This is a letter, you understand, that was written by a conquistador who went and he studied the Indians. And it said, Los Indios de las Indias Islas son Hebreos. This means the Indians of the islands are Hebrews. Well, these are the same islands that they were talking about, that the sons of Joseph lived on. Well, I'm going to read this translated in English. I'm going to read a couple of things here. It says, it is not improbable that the Jews who were driven from Nineveh by Salamanzar wandered into uninhabited regions. According to Herrera, the Indians cherished that the tradition that the Yucatan had been settled by tribes of the Orient, meaning what? The East. Let's take it a step further. The language, well, since we were talking about Hebrew, the language of the Indians in Hispaniola, Cuba, Jamaica, and the adjoining islands, he contends that it has many resemblances to Hebrew. So now it says, in fact, he calls it a corrupted Hebrew. Why would they call it a corrupted Hebrew? For the same reason they try to say the Lashon Kodash is corrupted, because we weren't speaking a bastardized language. We were speaking the original tongue. Well, let's take it a step further. Their rites and ceremonies, as well as their language from the main arguments, favor this theory of descent that they are the Jews. Circumcision prevailed among the Indians. They often bathed in rivers and streams. They refrained from touching the dead and from tasting blood. They had definite feast days. Marriage with sister-in-laws was permitted if they were childless widows. I don't know if you know, we're talking about law in Deuteronomy and Leviticus right now. They also sacrificed first fruits on high mountains and under shady trees. They had temples and carried a holy ark before them in a time of war. So now, this is Christopher Columbus and the participation of the Jews in Spanish and Portuguese discoveries. Well, that's what one of the conquistadors discovered. Let's take it a step further. This is the 10 Tribes of Israel by Timothy R. Jenkins. Well, since we're talking a little bit about language, I got a couple of things to add. It says the Reverend W.M. Smith, a Presbyterian minister along the Indians, who has finished a translation of the New Testament in the Mohegan language. Now I'm talking about North America. We talked about the Caribbean. We talked about Central America. Let's take it a step further.
Go ahead,
so
brother.
now, the water, sir.
Preach.
It says, at length it struck me that it was cast in the Hebrew mold. And I made this one, I will show you. It says it was printed on a large sheet, and any Hebrew scholar would recognize the suffixes and affixes of the Hebrew Bible. At the time the writer heard this, Mr. Smith was in Albany superintending the publication of the Mohegan Testament. He tried to translate the New Testament from English into Mohegan, and then because he was a Hebrew scholar, he realized the Mohegans were speaking Hebrew. So now it says several years before that, the writer of this article had seen a grammar of the Chilean language. Chile. You understand? We're talking about South America. We're talking about North America. We're talking about the Caribbean islands. We're talking about all the
New World.
Aborigines, the
New
Indians,
World.
Los Indios. You understand? So it says the grammar of the Chilean language and the verb was cast in Hebrew mold. No Hebrew scholar could doubt this. It may be said that Chile is in South America. Very true. But let it be remembered on our side that the Hebrew, hold on one second. It said that Hebrew immigrants had been in America 500 years before Christ. And of course, the Mexicans are descendants of the Hebrews. Let it be true that the Chileans are. Ooh, this is a whole group of
Of the who?
Indians, of the
The Moors?
Mexicans. Oh no, not the Moors. They said the Hebrews. Let's take it a step further. So now it says the Mohegan language was spoken by all the various tribes of New England. Many of the tribes had a different dialect, but the language was radically the same. Guess what? We speak a little bit of a dialect too. I say Thowata. Captain Mashak is going to say Towata. You understand? Same shit. Let's take it a step further. The language of the Delawares in Pennsylvania, of the Penobs of on Nova Scotia, that's Canada. The Indians in St. Francis, the Shawanese in Ohio, the Chippewas westward of Huron were all radically the same with the Mohegans. So now we're starting to see in Canada, in America, in South America, they're all speaking the same language. You understand? And that's because Moor is like saying you're black. It's like saying you're swarthy. It's like saying dark skin. And that's why earlier you said, well, some of the people in Arabia and they're Moors and Tibet and this and that. Why? Because Arabs could have been Moors. Africans could have been Moors. Just like today, they would say Africans are black. Guess what? Here's the thing. The only people that's black is the people who lost their identity. Because Africans have an identity. Well, this was our identity before they started calling us this. It's nothing new. Listen, we knew we were Israelites in the Bible. Guess what they called us in the Bible? Niger in Acts 13:1.
That's right.
You understand? There was Hebrew found everywhere. Matter of fact, right here, it says the Hebrew letters engraved in the top rock at Ticonderoga, the sheens found in Georgia, the inscriptions on the shekel are evidence of those that were taken by Shalmaneser in the reign of Hosea. There's non-stop archaeology. How much time I got left? 2 minutes. Well, let's take it a step further. This is the origins of the American Indians. You understand? Well, you know what? I think I got a lot because all this is going to say that this is another writer who accepted the Issachar variation of the 10 lost tribes. You understand? The Yucatans were descendants of.
Can I ask you a question, Where's the oldest known 10 commandments?
Oh, I believe New Mexico. They mentioned New Mexico earlier. You mean the Los Lunas stone? Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought so. You understand? So now it says that Mexicans were originally of the 10 tribes captured by Shalmaneser and the family of Issachar, whom the Indians recognized as their special ancestor. Well, we just went all over. Let's take it a step further. What about Negroes in America?
What about them?
I want all of y'all to take a look at this. This is known as the Judea Capticon. Cap, would you mind putting this in the camera?
I sure will.
Hey, the water. I appreciate that.
Right
you know what Judea Captor means? Judea Captor. Let me tell you something. Judea Captor means Jerusalem captured. Well, when was Jerusalem captured? Let's find out. Well, in the year, hold on. General Pompey captured Jerusalem in 70 AD.
Right.
When was that coin minted? Oh, you mean 70 AD? 70 AD, Jerusalem. Wow. Well, let's see something here. Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of military governors, that's an archaeological artifact there, of Palestine, many outrageous atrocities were committed. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa. Jews fled into Africa, fleeing Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jews. Why? Because the people who were brought here on cargo slave ships are not Moors. You know what they are? They are Jews. They are Israelites. Just like the Chileans, just like the Indians of the Yucatan, just like us all over in Puerto Rico, all the Caribbean, from if you want it, from Nova Scotia all the way on down to the bottom of Chile. You understand? You want to say anything?
How much time we got left?
7 seconds.
The white man is the devil. And with that, so now we've completed the 3 rounds. So now in this forum, we'll take a We'll do a Q&A back and forth. We can ask a question. Of course, you'll answer it, and then you'll have the opportunity to ask us a question, and we go back and forth. So I'm going to go back to the original question that I asked that CHAATAZA made me wait on. What is the race of the Moors? And just to clarify what I mean, like we say the children of Israel are those that descend from the Israelites, which today would be the Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. So who are the race of the Moors? What is their origin of the Moors?
Yeah. All right. Well, first, when you say what is the race of the Moors, you say the race of the Israelites. You say three different people who we refer to as a race today. You say blacks, Indians, and
I say Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians.
But I'm just saying today they will be referred to as three different races. So
right, that's why I said the origin. But
right.
I prefaced it by saying first, the nation of Israel are those that descend from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
No sweat.
So I'm asking you for the origin, not what we became. That's why I said who later became. So I'm asking you the Moors in their original state, what were they?
No sweat. So as we read in the beginning of the debate, we read in the Moorish Quran, chapter 47, verse 9, where it talks about how people who misname a black, Negro, and colored come from the Canaanite nation, the Holy Land of Canaan. But when you read further in the Moorish Quran, it was surrounding tribes. So you had the Canaanites, the Moabites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the same groups of people that were expelled out of the land by Joshua that received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt. Let me just finish this. Received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to inhabit North and Western Africa. These are the people you refer to as the Moors. So they're ancient names.
So Canaanites, Moabites, Girgashites, Amorites, Hittites,
and later
those
on,
are all Moors. Those five.
Yeah,
I just want to walk with you. I'll let you continue.
Sure.
That's kind of. I mean, yes or no?
Yes.
So those five nations are Moors.
Hittites, Amorites, Moabites, Canaanites,
Girgashites.
Sure, etc.
Okay.
And later on, because see, you quote scripture, but history continued. The Israelites were expelled out of the land of Israel. Where did they go? They went into Asia and they went into Africa, and later on became part of the Moorish Empire. So they too are Moors. So when y'all debating against us and saying Israel this, Israel that in the Americas, we're not against that. We said Israelites were in the Americas too, but they weren't the only groups of people that were in the Americas, and they were absorbed into the Moorish Empire.
Okay, so
as you can see on our left shoulder, our patch right here, no, I'm sorry.
Your shit fucked up.
Right shoulder, excuse me. Right shoulder. It's not messed up. If you see the right shoulder, you see a 6-pointed star.
Right.
This is an actual historical flag of the Kingdom of Morocco, because Israelites were also a part of the Moorish Empire. So Israelites too. But in terms of race is a social construct. It's non-existent. It's not a real thing. In ancient times, people didn't disseminate people based on race. They was based on their nationality, their tribal lineage.
Okay, so when I said to you what was their origin, that's what I was talking about, their tribal origin. And you gave me 5 nations.
Right.
You said the Canaanites, the Moabites, the Hittites, the Amorites, and the Girgashites. So where from their records are they called Moors?
Okay,
from their records. Because Moabites, that's not a Moor either, right? And just so you know, when you tell me stuff like we were a part of the Moorish Empire, that's no different than telling me we're part of the American Empire.
Sure.
I'm not going to disagree with that. But I'm not American by nationality. Paul, when he was met with the Roman guard, he said, "Does thou speak Greek?" He said, "Yes, I am a Roman by citizenship." But in Romans 11:1, he says, "I'm an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin." So I'm not asking you the empire you're in or land that you're living in or citizenship that you have. I'm asking about the origin. So really, you would have to show me, when did them 5 become 5? Because if they're Moors,
you mean become one?
No. When did those 5 nations become them 5 nations? Because if you're saying they are all Moors, show me when they were all 5 of those nations were called Moors at one time in history.
No sweat. So
don't try to use my shit,
man.
No,
I said I'm gonna do that.
No,
Let me help you out of your confusion, brother. Let me help you out of your confusion. As I said, Moor is not an ancient word. So you're looking to associate a modern term with an ancient people.
So then what I'm asking you to do, you gave me 5 different nations.
Sure.
Right? That's why I read. So show me when they was one. What was their one nation called?
Okay, so
and
that
prove
was,
it.
Okay, sure. So as I had stated earlier, I kind of skimmed over this, but you guys probably didn't hear it, so I'm gonna reiterate that.
Yeah, please do.
So a historical reference to what I was speaking on was an inscription found in Tangiers, right? And this inscription found in Tangiers was recorded by various historians throughout several centuries. For example, the historian Muhammad Crescensis, the historian Procopius, the historian Sudeus, who are centuries apart, and they translated this particular inscription. It was a Canaanite Phoenician inscription, and it's recorded in the complete works of Flavius Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, Book 5. Right? And if you look at the 9th footnote for chapter 1, it talks about Procopius Sudeus and an earlier author, Muhammad Crescensis, Mariba Carina, who was contemporary to Alexander the Great. All mention a famous inscription at Tangiers in North Africa concerning the Canaanites who were driven out by Joshua, son of Nun. The inscription states, one of the translations says, "We are they who fled from before the face of Joshua the robber, son of Nun." Now, some of the nations that I named, those 5 nations.
Wait, hold on. What? No, we get callers sometime. Sis, you gotta hold on 1 second, caller.
So some of the 5 nations.
Mute the other ones too.
No, we good, King. Appreciate you. So some of the 5 nations that you mentioned, that I had mentioned, were, according to the scripture, in the book of Joshua, expelled out of that land. Am I correct?
My question ain't about whether they was expelled from that land, because
I want you to walk with me. I just want to make sure I'm correct.
Yes.
Okay. So these groups of people went into North Africa and formed themselves. Matter of fact, can I get that Moorish Quran? Because it states right here in the history in the Moorish Quran, which corroborates with modern history, it states at the bottom of page 3, the industrious acts of the Muslims of Northwest and Southwest Africa. These are the Moabites, Hamathites, Canaanites, who were driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua and received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle in that portion of Egypt. In later years, they formed themselves kingdoms. These kingdoms are called this day Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, etc. So these particular kingdoms all fell under the Moorish Empire. The Moorish Empire spanned from South Asia, North Africa, portions of Europe, like southern France, Portugal, Spain, etc., and spread even across unto the Americas.
So now here's where we have a problem.
Okay.
The reason why we have a problem is you say Canaanites and Moabites. I'm gonna just use them two for one difference. Moabites come from a Shemitic stock. Those are Lot's children.
Right.
Canaanites come from a Hamitic stock. Those are Ham's children.
Do you
So how could they both be Moors by nationality, by origin?
No problem.
I'm not talking about, like, let's say if y'all 3 and us 3, the 6 of us, we create a coalition, call ourselves the real niggas. And then a whole bunch of other cats join us, and we become a nation of real niggas. And we go out and kill everything moving. We take America back. And if you ain't a real nigga, you ain't us. Just imagine that. And then it go down in history. And January 5th, 2018, that's when the real niggas came about. But we wasn't all the same. You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
So you can show me how those 5 nations can become Moors. I'm not arguing that. But what I'm saying to you is, from a biblical narrative, the Moabites come from Lot's bloodline. Canaanites come from Ham's bloodline. So if you're telling me that they're Moors, they can't be.
All right. So,
because that's different nationalities that you're trying to join together. And I'm only using 2 out of the 5 that you gave.
Right.
Living in the land don't make you the same. Chinese man in Africa right now, ask the Africans if they the same. They not.
Okay. So again.
Body bag.
I like the little bomb sound effects and the claps.
I'll give you a bomb if you get one.
Now check this out,
The
King.
the best thing you said was no sweat tonight.
No, all right, no sweat. Check this out, King. Right? Say
he dropped the bomb.
Let's just say, right? Today in 2019, I have a child with a European woman, right? Right? And then that baby's now what? Mixed between me and that European woman, right?
That baby is what you are.
Sure. I mean, Not according to the social construct in the scripture. I'm talking about from a about from a biological
okay,
standpoint.
let's go biologically. All you got to do is research the white man's sciences if you want to go biologically. Right. And you get the same chromosomes from the male and the female when it comes to making a child.
Right.
But in what determines his nationality comes from the father.
Nationality is a social construct, brother. It's not biological.
When I'm saying nationality, what makes it what it is, like how you say you dealt with a European. So you black, that's European. What makes it European or black is based on what the male is.
The same.
That's science.
It's a mixture of two different people.
God said that shit.
23 I'm just saying 23 chromosomes from one parent, 23 chromosomes from another parent, right? So if the European mother has a disease like sickle cell anemia, right?
I'm not saying
and I don't have that in my ancestry, she could pass it on to the child.
But I'm not saying they can't inherit traits. We talking about what you are.
No, I understand, but just check this out. Just check this out, because see, nations rise and fall. So you want to be stuck in one period as if certain nations exist at one time and they don't exist in another. Or some kingdoms don't consolidate. The Moorish Empire begins in the in the 7th century. And it doesn't fall in Europe. It doesn't begin to fall.
Then there was no more before that.
I'm just saying, just hang on one second.
Because
it's a modern. It's a modern.
Created the shit
again. Just hear me out. The Moorish Empire. The Moorish Empire begins in the 7th century. It doesn't begin to fall. It doesn't begin to decline until the 16th century. So these groups of people are not saying, oh, you're Hittite, I'm Canaanite, we're not having no children together. This was one empire where people was mixing, including Israelites, mixing with the populations in Africa under one empire, under one group of people.
Wow.
So to say that they're a distinct group of people,
I'm holding an iPhone.
So what we're saying is homogeneous versus heterogeneous. A group of people who do not mix versus a group of people who do mix. So in the ancient times, there were separate nations. As history progressed, as time progressed, they became one nation because they mixed into one group of people.
Yeah.
There was no separation or distinction.
I asked you the origin.
I gave you it.
You gave me 5 nations.
Yes.
But you're giving me when they're already split. Even the metaphor that you gave is they're split.
But and this is what I want to know. If those different groups that he said, if they would have all became one, why are those different individual groups still around today individually? And like just like you said, you're not an Arab earlier, which is the proof that there's different nations even today.
And here's the biggest thing. So when I say origin, when I started the first round, I went to the origin of Israel.
Sure.
I read Genesis 32, 7, and 8. Sure. It said your name will no longer be Jacob, is going to be Israel. So from that point, anybody that says they're Israelites say they descend from that. So if you're saying we're Moors, where's the first Moor?
So we're gonna ignore the centuries of rule from Alexander the Greek all the way to the Roman Empire when the Israelites were being ruled under this group of people. We're gonna ignore all the history after that. We're not gonna take none of that into account. And we're only going to talk about the origin.
Not only am I going to acknowledge that, I'm going to acknowledge we went through 430 years of slavery in Egypt.
And y'all lineage is pure?
Let me finish. We went through 430 years of Egypt. We went through the Assyrian captivity.
Sure.
We went through Greek and Roman captivity. Mm-hmm. And all throughout that captivity, until we lost our inheritance and lost our identity, we call ourselves Israelites all throughout. We didn't call ourselves nothing else. When you read the scriptures from Genesis to Revelations, we didn't decide to call ourselves a Canaanite. We didn't decide to call ourselves a Moabite. We kept it. So when you asking me, am I going to ignore it? No, I'm not going to ignore it. That's why you yourself, I said, I'm never going to disagree that we were a part of the Moorish Empire, which is why I said it's no different than being a part of the American Empire. But that does not make you a Moor just because you fought for them or just because you was down with them. That don't make you the same people. You have an origin. Our origin is Israel. Just say there is no origin of the Moors. It's just a coalition. Just say that shit. It's a gang of niggas. Just let the 6 of us coming together. I'd rather you call yourselves the real niggas. Join me. Don't be a Moor. Come on, let's just be the real niggas and take over something real than to say you Moor. And if race is a social construct, why even call yourself a Moor? Why call yourself anything?
Because it's a political identity.
For what?
Asiatics.
So we either Asiatics or Moors.
Asiatic's another blanket term.
Asiatic is another identity. It's another racial,
blanket term.
Right, Asiatic just means you was from Asia, whether Asia Minor or Asia Major. But you ain't gonna call yourself an Arab.
And you know how many ethnic groups are in there? That's crazy.
But the Arabs in Asia, Moab was the plains of Moab was where?
And I wanna build on a little bit before you go on.
No sweat.
When he was talking about, you know, some of the tribes from the Caribbean. First of all, when we look at the tribes of the Caribbean, they didn't originate in those islands. They migrated from South America. So was there conquistadors who came and saw that there were certain individuals speaking quote unquote Hebrew? Okay.
I'm talking to the brother. You good.
It's definitely a possibility, but those are not the oldest tribes. All right. When you look at, again, the Olmec civilization, all right, that's the foundation of the oldest groups that was out there in Anasazi people. Those were not Hebrews. Hebrews came in.
What people you
in
say? I'm sorry.
He's saying the Olmecs.
The Olmecs and the Anasazi, which was a collective group of people. Now, in 1492, right, because the brother was talking about slavery, we know that less than 5% of slaves was brought into North America. So you look at 1492, that's the Moors being expelled out of Spain. It will only make sense that the next group of people that was going to be subjugated by Europeans were Moors. It wasn't the Hebrews. The Hebrews were part, like you said, were part of the Moors Empire. But a response to the Moors being expelled out of Spain was the Spanish and the Europeans, subjugating, quote unquote,
Let me ask you a
Moors.
different question. What's the origin of the Africans?
Well, that would be something for somebody who's saying they of African origin.
So that's not something you study, so you couldn't answer that.
I studied some of it, but that's kind of off topic. What I'm talking about.
What's the origin of the Chinese?
From Asia, but see, then you got to look at.
Okay,
the fact,
so what's the origin of the Moors?
Right. Again, we said from the land of Canaan, from out of the land of Canaan.
Okay, so show me a record of them.
From Levant.
Well, but y'all said they wasn't called Moors. This brother said Moors Empire didn't come until 7th century.
But right, again, exactly. We talking about language. We talking about.
But you also giving me names that are not Moor names.
Right. No.
Girgashite is not a Moor name. Amorite, Moabite,
those
Hittite
collectively became known as Moors as a body politic.
So then they were not Moors.
They are Moors. Again, you have a hard time comprehending. When these people migrated, when they came out of the land of Canaan and migrated into areas of Morocco, Mauritania,
and they got down together.
Right. These individuals
called
know
themselves
collectively as Moors. You understand that?
So that's like when the white man came over here, he went from being European to American. But he's still a white man, though.
I wouldn't say that because
he's still an Edomite, though.
Quote unquote.
You said
quote unquote Europeans, they were grafted, but that's a whole nother.
What I'm saying. What I'm talking about in history.
So like, I want to get back to my topic. In 1492, can we agree that the Moors were expelled from Spain, and as a result of that, the Portuguese and the Spanish, they subjugated Moors?
You know what the problem is? Like this is what y'all don't understand. That the Moor is a blanket term. There are several groups of the ones you call Moors.
From the Encyclopedia Britannica. Now, this is just to back Camelback you up.
Good old kind.
Said Moors, Moroccan, formerly a member of the Muslim population of what is now Spain. It says, hold on, let me get this crap off here. And Portugal is a mix of Arab, Spanish, Amazinga, or Berber origins. So just to back up what CHAATAZA is saying, like that's not a nationality, race of people. It's a coalition.
And that's what I'm saying. Like,
what is nationality?
Hold on.
Though.
Moors. Let me explain something to you. There were Africans who took over Spain at one time.
Right.
There were Arabs who came out. You understand, and took over Spain.
Right.
There were Jews who took over Spain.
Right.
All three of these groups are three separate races of people, all who were given the title Moor.
What's race?
Because Moor just means black.
No, it doesn't.
That's what you don't understand.
So why would somebody identify themselves as a black or Moor?
Yes, it does.
No, it
the
does
same
not.
way Jews were called Niger, the same way we're called black today in America, Negro, Moreno, so on and so forth. That's the problem.
Black comes from BLAEC. All right, black. They was talking about pale people. That's the origin of the word black coming from the Europeans.
So what does Moor mean?
It means Westerner.
Westerner. Means Westerner.
So if you're from the West, that you're more.
Another
No,
blanket
Westerner-
statement. No matter what way you slice it, it's a blanket statement.
Hebrew means to cross over.
Wait.
What the fuck?
Wait.
Hebrew means to cross over.
It means it's crossover.
But we're not Hebrews. We're Israelites. Hebrew is a language.
So Abraham is not a Hebrew. Joshua wasn't called a Hebrew.
1 second. Hebrew, like I said in the beginning, when you go to Genesis, the 10th chapter,
Eber, we know
you see a
Eber.
man, Eber.
Yes.
That's Hebrew.
Okay.
So when they say Abraham's a Hebrew, it's more than just the language. It's because he descends from that man. Even that's an origin.
Yeah.
So who's the Westerner?
He descends from a.
Who's the Westerner?
crossover.
So okay, no
The-
sweat. I know you give me
the-
you want to give me the definition of the
Yeah,
name.
the Westerner come from the Alma-Grid, which is northwest. Northwest.
No. What I'm asking you is, you see how I trace Hebrew all the way back to Eber? You see how I did that?
I think I got what you're saying.
Wait, but I want to be clear. Y'all see how I can trace Hebrew all the way back to a man by the name of Hebrew.
So who's westward?
Sure.
So who's Westerner?
I got you. So
Who that nigga?
so when the Moors
And what
invaded-
language would you say it
I
in?
got
Like,
you.
if we got to say Hebrew to say it, so what? How? Because I'm pretty sure you wouldn't say Moor or
Yeah,
Westerner.
it's the Canaanite Phoenician.
Well, how you say it? What's his name?
Which you call Hebrew.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, what's that nigga name?
I got you. So you have what was
He ain't
known
say
as
no sweat that time.
no sweat. You have what they call. I got exactly what you're looking for. You have what they call the Almoravid dynasty. Okay, with the Moors winning in Spain, you have what's called the Almoravid dynasty, right?
What year is
John-
he talking?
So this is about where I'm getting my information from. Is an emir named Yahasha of Morocco who visited Mecca in 1048 Christian era. This is written by John G. Jackson. He's quoting this thing, and it says, John G. Jackson tells us how the emir Yahya of Morocco visited Mecca in 1048 Christian era and met the religious reformer Yassin. The emir persuaded Yassin to return to Moorish dominions in the Senegal River region of West Africa, and his presence sparked an Islamic revival. The movement which these two men spawned initially called its disciples Morabites. That title later evolved into Almoravids, which is often translated as champions of the faith. So when you study the history of the term Morabite, and you study the history of Almoravids,
Morabits. Okay.
it comes from the term Moabite. So the Moabites, and when the Moors went into Spain, here's a picture of the Moabites, which is another variation of the word. You can see these dark brothers in turbans, right? So when the Moors went into Spain, according to the Spaniards' chronicles, they referred to the Almoravid king as the king of the Moabites. So there is your ancient connection to this modern group name is Moors. There go to no sweat.
Okay, so now let's go with that one, right?
Sure.
So then the Moabites still couldn't be Canaanites and Hittites and Amorites and Girgashites. So you saying y'all come from Moab, right?
I already explained to you how all of these groups
No,
became
I
one.
got you. I just want to be clear. So you put
Sure.
out that information. So we come from Moab is what your perspective would be, right?
There was different groups of Moors.
No, but based on what he said we're Moabites.
No, that's another group of Moors. That's us Moabites.
Okay, so we come
You
from
have-
Moabites then,
no,
right?
listen, they're Israelite Moors, they're Cushite Moors. The Moors have subgroups. When you read the Moorish Quran, he talks about.
Yeah, I
more
rock
than
with
one
you on
group.
that. Let me tell you something. You got Methodists, you got Jehovah's Witnesses,
Yeah, but
you
that-
got Baptists.
But that's not a political
You ain't
status.
get-
That's not a
Okay,
nationality.
that a Baptist is no different than a Moor. It's just what you're affiliating with. It's not your nationality. You can have a white Moor. A white man could be a Moor.
You can't
A
have
European
white
can be a Moor. An Arab can be a Moor. A Chinese can be a Moor.
No.
An Israelite can be a Moor. An African can be a Moor. Anybody can be a Moor.
Everybody cannot be a Moor.
Why can't they be a Moor?
All right, look at
Just
it like
tell me
this.
why they can't.
Okay, so hold on. Just to
I just
address
want to
your
know why
point.
they can't be a Moor.
I'll tell you why, but just
Okay.
hang on 1 second. Let's slow down. The Romans had an empire, right? We understand the difference between an empire and a nation.
That's why Paul
So-
said
so-
he was a Roman citizen.
Right. So the Romans the people were collectively known as Romans.
Right.
Although they had different nations of people. I explained to you that the Moorish Empire spanned continents.
Mhm.
It spanned continents. That these
Right.
people populated different parts of the world.
Right. Now, why
So-
would everybody call themselves Romans? Because there were actual nation called Romans that forced them to agree with them. that took them over. Yes, it is. What are you talking about?
Again,
Are you
again,
serious?
it's
You
not-
became Roman because they conquered
But
you.
don't make it comparable.
And at
But
least
don't
they
make it
say,
comparable.
at least
You
they
the
say
Moorish
they come
Empire.
from Romulus.
Right. But no, what I'm saying is you brought up this metaphor of using Rome and making a
Sure.
comparison to the Moors.
Sure.
You still would have. So are you saying the Moabites are the original Moors, and then they went out and everybody else became a part of them? Because that's Rome.
I explained to you how the Moorish Empire began.
No,
It
no, no.
was
What
groups of people who were. It was nations of people who no longer had a land. Is that you following me?
Right, you
They
saying
no
when they got
longer
kicked,
had a
when
land.
Joshua kicked them out like he should have.
Exactly. And
he
then
kicked them
then his
bastards
people
out.
got kicked out and they joined
Right.
him.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
They did
You
not.
just said the Israelites became part of the Moorish Empire. So how did they not?
Well, here's what I'm saying. I'm
No, I'm just saying because it's not making sense right now.
No,
You're
The
not-
same way as
understand.
Israelites in the American
I
Empire.
understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I was saying more so from a timeline because when we first got kicked out, we didn't join them nations. We got kicked out first historically with the Assyrian Empire. And then that's how we got over here to the Americas, and we still was in Israel up until 70 AD. So when I was
You had
telling
to cross through
hold
North
on,
Africa though.
hold on one
there,
sec. Wait,
to
wait.
the Americas.
No, let me answer you because you said I'm not making sense. I want to
Okay,
bring
go
you
ahead,
back.
clarify.
I was speaking from a timeline perspective.
Hmm?
In 70 AD, when Jerusalem fell, and then we fled into Africa, and then we was in Europe. From that moment on, we didn't have no land at all. So you're right. We did join up with different people, not just Moorish people. We joined up with Muslims by force or Arabs.
Sure.
We joined with African tribes. We ended up joining with America as well.
Mhm.
That's not the argument that I'm talking about here.
Sure.
And I think you're very, very confused. You gave the perfect way to understand it. You said when the Roman Empire went out, you had to be Roman. But you had to be Roman because there was a race that called themselves Roman.
Made
So
up of different heritages.
But again,
So my
I'm just
question
saying, you're
to you
conflating
is-
it because you're kind of insinuating something though. You're
No,
insinuating.
I just want to know the Moor by right,
Uh-huh.
right?
Heritage.
Would that be Moabites first, and then everybody else after that? That's all I'm asking you. Because you brought up Moabites.
Yeah, sure. So it's like we're getting circular because you want to confine.
I'll be done with it as soon as you just
I'm
answer
just saying,
this a
I'm
simple
answering
yes or
it.
no.
I'm answering it again. You're not accepting the answer.
No,
but we're
because
being
it's just a
circular.
yes or no. If I'm asking a yes or no question,
It's
are the
not one
original
group-
Moors
It's not a yes or no
Moabites?
question though. It's not one group of people that formed what was called the Moorish Empire.
Then that's not a people. That's a coalition.
No, that's not true though. Then
Thank you. He's agreeing. His man agreeing with him.
but
It's a
again,
coalition of people.
but
Thank
again,
you.
but
And
I'm
let me
just
tell you
saying, what's
something. If y'all come to me and say the Moors is a coalition of people, I'm not gonna argue with you about that because that's what Moors are. But when you
Sure.
come here and try to tell me y'all came here for this debate to say that we're Moors, but we're not Moors. No more than I'm not a Christian. No more than I'm
So-
not a Baptist.
So for okay, see, that's what I'm saying.
No. I'm
How did you?
comparing.
All right, I got
No,
a question
I'm
for you.
comparing
Can I
what
ask a
you
question?
joined. Yeah, go ahead.
How did the Israelites navigate politically through the centuries of the Moors ruling North Africa, Europe, parts of Asia? How did the Israelites
got that
identify
page
themselves
in,
politically, and how did they navigate the world politically?
Politically?
Politically.
I'll even go politically or economically.
No, I'm just asking you politically. I'm asking a specific question. Politically.
Mhm.
So if you were to travel, how would an Israelite identify themselves? How would they have? What would their protections fall under? What laws?
What
were protecting
time
them
frame?
internationally?
Okay, now what time frame?
I'm
And
talking
where?
about during the rule of the Moors.
Okay, so now during the rule of the Moors, you're saying what was the Israelites doing?
Now I'm asking you politically, how were they identified, and how did they navigate
Politically, they was identified as
internationally?
Israelites. That's why when you and I read in
Okay.
this, when you and I read in here, it would say Israelites and it would say Moors. It wouldn't join them together. This book here did not say that the Moors and the Israelites were the same people.
So where was the Israelite territory?
The issue is never dealing with each other. Like we're in America, I work in corporate America. I deal with Esau all day, every day.
Sure.
CHAATAZA does, other brothers do.
Okay.
That's politics or economics, whichever one you want to
All
call
right,
it.
no,
That's not the
you're back
argument.
yourself in the corner. So how you gonna go to Israel? What are you gonna use? You gonna
I've
use
been to
I'm
Israel.
just saying, are you gonna use an Israelite passport or are you gonna use an American
I'm
passport?
gonna use an American
Okay then.
passport.
Okay then. So politically, you identify yourself as American when you navigate internationally.
Now,
That's what I'm saying.
1 second. I answered this question for you a long time ago when I mentioned Paul. I said in the scriptures, Acts the 21st chapter,
Sure.
Paul said he was a Roman citizen. You know why?
Exactly.
Because the Roman, what he wanted as far as the Roman laws benefited him, which is not an
Exactly.
unlawful thing to do. but he recognized himself as an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin.
Sure.
So when I went to Israel, I took my American passport and went to Israel.
Sure.
But I'm not American. But
Sure.
I will use my American citizenship for whatever advantage it lots me.
Sure.
So if you're trying to be a Moorish citizen, that's fine. But don't tell me that
Sure.
we're Moors by nationality or origin, because it's a fucking lie. It just is.
Citizenship and nationality is synonymous.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
Then why did Paul say he was a Roman citizen, but he was an Israelite? If it's
Because
the
he's
same,
talking about
why
his
would he just be
he's
one?
talking about his ethnicity.
Why
Hold
would he
on.
just be one?
Let me give you a little background. All right. I go to John Jay College of Criminal Justice right now. I'm a 3.7 GPA. I'm a political science major. I'm a political science.
good at that and not
I'm a
you
political
fucking up with
science.
this shit here.
I'm a political science major.
3.7, your
So hold
GPA
on.
straight.
The term
Drop a bomb.
you are a citizen
got a
of a
bomb.
hold on. I'm just giving you a civics lesson. You are a citizen of a nation. So when you say you have citizenship somewhere, you're saying you're a part of that nation. That's what you're saying.
I'm not arguing. That's not the argument. The point of this debate was not about being an Italian citizen, an African citizen,
Israelites
an
were Moorish
American
citizens.
citizen.
Israelites
It's not.
were Moorish citizens.
But that's not
And their
the
nationality.
Do you
during the
realize
Moorish
what this
Empire,
debate was about?
Now I understand.
Okay, what did you have to come here and prove?
We had to prove that we are Moors. I'm showing you by
You're
nationality.
not proving that.
I'm showing you by nationality.
How?
As I just explained, if you were to go before the United Nations, if you were to try to travel anywhere outside the United States, you would have to identify your nationality as American. You can't go to customs and say I'm an Israelite. That's my nationality, and think you're gonna board a plane.
Okay, so now is that what I am? I'm asking you.
No,
is that what I am?
I would say ethnically, you can identify as an Israelite.
Okay,
nationality
is that what
wise, politically wise,
is that what I am?
You can't navigate in
Under
the world.
whose politics and whose authority?
Under the world order, the international law.
Right. So we don't have no choice in the matter because we're in captivity, right?
Sure.
So this is not something that I chose.
But this wasn't the case under the Moorish Empire, though.
It was.
And that's not true.
Moors, Islam itself, and Moors, that was the case.
No, that's not true.
That is the case.
So let's
Islam
talk
was
about that.
spread. Islam was spread with Islam
heard.
was spread straight up and down with the sword.
Okay.
And the Moors followed the same belief system, and so ergo they did the same exact thing. But I don't want to sway from the subject matter to prove we are Moors. We got about maybe 10 more minutes left.
So let's just say this.
Give me 10 minutes on the
When the Israelites, they were under the matter of fact, can I get that Moorish Quran real quick? We're just gonna look at chapter 45 real quick because
the one, oh my God.
Give me at least give me Muhammad.
Mind you. So it says,
give me Muhammad shit.
Farrakhan don't even quote that bullshit.
Actually, I'm just gonna paraphrase this in the interest of time.
You bet.
So
That's better.
the Israelites were under according to our lessons, it states, the Israelites were under the iron hand oppression of the pale-skinned nations of Europe until Muhammad I came upon the scene. So it wasn't Jesus that liberated the Israelite people under the iron hand oppression of the pale-skinned nations of Europe.
Did he not hear earlier about how Muhammad oppressed the Jews?
Sure. That's your claim.
That's not a claim. That's historical.
No. That's not a historical fact.
It is
I'm just saying,
fact.
y'all presented y'all claim.
Islam was spread with the sword.
Can I present the counter argument to you saying presented about a sword? All right. So
and forced us to worship a rock.
That's not true. That's not true because even in the Quran itself, it's not. Islam was not a compulsory religion. You don't have to convert. During the Moorish Empire, as I stated earlier, people were allowed to keep their religion.
Jihad.
How could you be a Jew in the Moorish Empire if you were forced to be a Muslim? You couldn't. You could not observe your faith. But under the Moorish Empire, you were permitted to observe your faith, albeit you had to pay a tax. For non-believers or non-Muslims, they had to pay a tax. But those who were convert to Islam no longer had to pay a tax. What do you mean? What if you didn't pay a tax anywhere?
No. If you didn't, you said if you didn't want to be a Muslim, you had to pay
a tax
to keep your faith, right?
Exactly.
In
land controlled by the Moors.
What if you did not pay that tax for your belief? What would happen?
What if people were living in? What if the people were living in the land of Israel and they refuse? Hold on, wait. What if people lived in the land of Israel and they refuse to pay a tax? What would happen?
There is no tax that you pay for your belief in our land.
No, I'm just saying. Let's just say any tax. A foreigner.
Did you hear what I just said?
I heard
if you come into the land of Israel under our rule, you serve the Most High.
And did you have to pay tributaries? Or matter of fact,
Yes,
so
but we're not talking.
Israelites don't allow religious freedom, but the Moors did.
No,
The
we
Christians
don't.
didn't.
We don't.
The
We don't
the
allow
Christians
religious
didn't.
freedom. Y'all don't allow
Israelites
religious
didn't,
freedom,
but the
though.
Moors didn't.
The Moors don't allow
Yes,
religious
they did.
freedom. You said you had to pay a tax. That's not freedom. It would be free.
Again, you could observe your faith however you want.
But you had to pay a tax.
Yes, you did.
Okay. So
But
what if you did
what
not
nation don't
pay,
collect tax?
If you,
Tell me a nation that
listen,
don't.
I ain't talking about taxes like when you work a job and they take your tax. You was very specific.
All right, you want to argue just
said
the unjust taxes? It's whatever.
No,
I'm just telling you historically
I'm not
what
talking
happened.
about taxes. You said you had to pay a tax
Yeah.
to do your religion if it was not Islam,
Sure.
right?
Which was
So
less
what
of a tax
happened
than
if
the
you
Romans?
didn't pay that tax?
Which was less than the
Why
Romans.
won't you answer
But
the
have to
question?
understand- Again,
Why won't you answer? You go to prison.
You will be subject to
you go
punishment.
to-
Exactly.
Okay, then. So you were forced.
Exactly.
It's something that you forced to do, whether you could pay for it or whether you don't. They were
Again,
just
but you-
nicer.
but
They
you
were
could-
just
again,
nicer.
The Romans were crucifying people. They were forcing them to be Christians.
Right.
You didn't have a religious choice.
Right.
The Israelites didn't have a religious choice.
Have
They were
religious
forcing
choice
people
in
to eat
Islam
pork.
Unless you pay.
Again.
In the Moorish society,
Whatever.
you had to pay your taxes in order to do it.
You pay taxes in America, right?
We're not talking about taxes from a job. You were specific about
All
a religious
nations,
faith.
all nations.
But you was talking about faith,
Israelites
though.
not excluded. Exactly, but it was an incentive for people to
To be
embrace the faith.
Muslims,
To
right?
embrace the faith. Sure.
So why pay?
Sure.
So
But that was
instead
one
of
factor.
fucking you up,
the second
they hit your
factor-
pockets.
Mind you, y'all making
Now,
it
which
seem-
one you figure?
y'all making
I'm,
it seem-
I'm
wait.
tired of paying that $100.
This your
how much-
argument.
How much was the tax? How much was the tax?
It was I can't give you an exact figure.
I didn't know if you knew or not. I'm just
I'm just
asking.
being specific though. What I do know is, according to historians, it was less than the Romans were charging.
I'll
the
give you
people.
an example. I'm gonna give you an example of how
Sure.
that's bullshit. When the conquistadors came over to South America, they told the South Americans, you could be Catholic and you don't have to be a slave. So then people would be Catholics. But then
It's
even
not the same though.
Even when they was Catholics, they still made them slaves. Because
that's not the same, though.
Because the thing wasn't about making you be free, it was about owning you.
You
so
making
whether you
two
pay,
different- you
I'm-
conflating two
no,
different
they're
arguments.
the exact
Your
same.
freedom, you still had your freedom.
They're the exact
You still had
same.
your land.
To be
You still
free,
had
I
your
shouldn't
property.
have to pay to keep my faith.
Okay,
if it's free.
Sure.
That's not freedom. Don't say I got freedom then.
You could have stayed under the Romans. You could have stayed under Roman oppression.
No, I would have died.
Yeah,
I would have died under Roman oppression.
All citizens have to pay a tax if they under empire or nation because that finance.
I'm not
helps,
disagreeing
hold
with
up,
that.
That finance helps run that nation.
But I'm
For
not
roads,
disagreeing
whatever
with
case may be, for
taxes, though.
trade, you got to pay those fees.
But
a
brother-
country, you can't have a country without finance.
Brother, I'm not disagreeing with taxes,
All right,
though.
all right.
I'm not.
So
I'm
we got
disagreeing
your
with-
we got
I'm
your position.
disagreeing with him
You don't
saying
think
you have
it's
to pay
fair.
taxes for your faith.
Sure, fair.
That's what I'm disagreeing.
It's not fair that they
He
have to pay a
he
tax on
wanted
their
to bring
faith.
that to me like that was supposed to make
Again,
it better. How
again,
much time
so-
we got?
So
let's see here, 4
4
minutes.
minutes. So 4 minutes. What you got?
So boom. The Muslims took the delta from the Byzantine Romans and in 200 years of rule. The capital was set up in Alexandria, Egypt to maintain control. So since the 4th century BCE, Europeans controlled that area. 300 years from the falling of Alexander the Greek from 332 BCE, and it was brought under Roman control under 30 BCE. Germanic invaders took control of that from the 5th and 6th centuries, and the Byzantines had control until the Muslims came, and they were liberators to the land. Melanated, dark-skinned, woolly-haired people came into the land. Y'all make it seem like pale Arabs. Hold on, y'all make it seem like pale Arabs.
No, because you're saying something wrong. The Byzantine was ruled by black men. That's
Sure.
that's
Okay,
what
fine.
you don't comprehend.
For the interest of time, we're not even gonna argue that. Whatever.
So that fucked up
It
your whole
doesn't matter.
statement.
It doesn't
You
matter to
have
my point.
no argument now.
No, it doesn't matter. I do have argument.